Warrior Lore. Chapter 2230. The first Divine General's sword principle expert was incomparably powerful. With the help of the killing formation laid down by a dozen experts, the Iron Blood Taoist was almost trapped. Roar! The Iron Blood Taoist roared angrily. His movements slowed down. Although they couldn't truly imprison him, it was enough for the sword principle expert. Swish! The sword principle expert's sword turned into a dazzling sword light surrounded by Tao patterns. It pierced through the void and directly pierced towards the Iron Blood Taoist's forehead. This was the power of the great Tao. As long as the divine sword pierced through the forehead and destroyed his Niwen palace, the Iron Blood Taoist would be killed. It should be known that the Iron Blood Taoist was only an advanced sage to be. Even an advanced sage to be would be turned into ashes if he was stabbed by the divine sword. A fiery divine phoenix emerged from the Iron Blood Taoist's body and struggled violently. Countless Tao patterns appeared, trying to break free. The entire killing formation shook as if it could collapse at any time. Rumble! The heavens and earth shook. The divine phoenix wanted to soar into the sky and was about to succeed. However, at this moment, the peerless divine sword pierced towards the Iron Blood Taoist. The shocking sword chi caused his face to feel a stinging pain, and beads of blood seeped out of his skin. At this critical moment, an object flew across the sky and smashed towards the sword principle expert at an extremely fast speed. The sword principle expert was shocked. To a certain extent, the faster the speed, the greater the power. This object flew across the sky and made him feel danger. The sword principle expert had no choice but to retreat. The unstoppable sword momentum immediately slowed down. Clang! In that split second, the Iron Blood Taoist had already raised the Phoenix Tribulation in his hand to block the space between his eyebrows. That world-shaking sword pierced into the Phoenix Tribulation. The Iron Blood Taoist felt a sudden jolt in his hand and a sharp pain in his hand. The Phoenix Tribulation that he had been holding tightly almost flew out of his hand. He couldn't help but be shocked. The power of the opponent's sword was too strong, exceeding his estimation. If he was hit by this sword, perhaps even a true saint would not be able to bear the consequences. This sword is not bad. Just at this moment, a voice suddenly rang out beside the Iron Blood Taoist. Then, a hand stretched out from the side, completely ignoring the sharp sword light emitted by the holy sword and grabbing it. At this time, the sword principle expert discovered that the thing that was smashing towards him was a head. It was the head of the first immortal general, which made him horrified. As one of the most competent generals under the first godly general, this sword Tao expert naturally knew how terrifying the first godly general was. After all, he was an ancient saint. To think that Gu Fei was so strong that he could kill ancient sages. The expert swordsman was very decisive. He immediately turned around and left, not even wanting his divine sword. In his opinion, nothing was more important than his own life. Right at this time, a blinding light suddenly erupted high up in the sky. South Pole Immortal Venerable's incarnation finally couldn't hold on any longer. His entire body erupted with divine immortal light, as if he had turned into a divine sun. He burned the last of his immortal Tao energy, pushing the power of the ancient Tao diagram to a peak state. The power of the ancient diagram finally surpassed the limits of the mortal world. Rumble! Above the 9 heavens, the sound of thunder immediately resounded. Bolts of purple lightning suddenly appeared, bombarding down from the depths of the sky, bringing with them a terrifying power of annihilation. The power in the depths of the sky was finally triggered, displaying its thunderous fury, wanting to annihilate all existences that dared to challenge the limits of the mortal world. Haha, to be able to drag you down with me, it's worth it. South Pole Immortal Venerable's incarnation laughed heartily. Then, a bolt of purple lightning descended from the sky, directly blasting South Pole Immortal Venerable's incarnation into ashes. It was like a divine sun that was emitting endless divine light suddenly disappeared high up in the sky, the blinding divine light instantly disappearing. Everyone was stunned by this scene. This was the price to pay for daring to challenge the limits of the mortal world. Even someone as powerful as South Pole Immortal Venerable's incarnation couldn't contend against this power that could kill saints. Gu Fei's Immortal Venerable holy body didn't surpass that limit, so the terrifying purple lightning didn't rush towards him. However, before South Pole Immortal Venerable's incarnation was blasted into ashes by the purple lightning, it had already ascended to its limit and poured its supreme power into the ancient formation diagram. The ancient formation diagram wasn't a living thing. The purple lightning didn't descend, but it didn't dissipate either. The pressure that made people feel despair made their souls tremble. What happened in the Antiquity era? How could such a power appear? Could it be the heaven-shaking work of those people? An ancient saint muttered to himself. The Antiquity era was shattered, and the great change that swept through the entire untainted land caused countless powerful existences to fall. However, there were still some ancient saints who survived. However, although these ancient saints survived, they had to pay a great price. They had to seal themselves in their saint realm cultivation base and battle prowess in order to appear in the human world. Of course, in the beginning, there were some who didn't believe in this, but these people were destined to have a tragic fate. Their bodies and souls were directly destroyed. As a result, the ancient saints who survived the great calamity became obedient. Big Brother, seeing South Pole Immortal Venerable's incarnation being blasted into ashes by the purple lightning, Lu Xianwang was shocked to the extreme. He didn't say anything else and directly rushed towards the chaos well. If he didn't leave now, he might not be able to. Ziyang Unfettered had the same idea as Lu Xianwang and rushed towards the chaos well almost at the same time. They wanted to enter the chaotic divine soil. You want to escape? He Tian immediately gave chase. Boom. At this time, a loud explosion came from the ground and countless formation runes dissipated. Gu Fei's true body easily broke the killing formation that trapped Ironblood Taoist. Within the killing formation, the dozen experts exploded into clouds of blood mist, their bodies and souls destroyed. They were all killed by the backlash of the killing formation. High up in the sky, Gu Fei's Immortal Venerable roared and attacked with all his strength. Immortal Tao energy surged from his body, and the void around him constantly cracked into pitch-black spatial fissures. However, all of this seemed to be powerless. Gu Fei's Immortal Sovereign Saint body was locked in place by a mighty force from the ancient spirit diagram. The ancient spirit diagram was actually trying to devour him. Seeing this, Gu Fei immediately soared into the sky and punched the ancient spirit diagram. Powerful primal chaos energy exploded from his fist and fiercely collided with the ancient spirit diagram. The power of the chaotic martial body erupted, and the ancient formation shook violently from Gu Fei's punch. Chapter 22:31. So what if it's an ancient Tao diagram? Gu Fei's battle intent was boundless. He and his immortal physique attacked together. Powerful forces shook the heavens and earth, turning this part of the world into nothingness. However, the ancient Tao diagram seemed to possess an immortal might. Although Gu Fei and his immortal physique kept on attacking, it showed no signs of dissipating. There are two Gu Feis. That one is the real one. By then, some of the cultivators who knew Gu Fei and were watching the battle from afar were shocked to the extreme. What's going on? In the distant clouds, a white tiger appeared. This was an old man from the Buzhou demon race. The white tiger's bloodline flowed through his veins, making him incomparably powerful. Both of them are the real ones. Impossible. Some ancient saints felt that something was wrong. The immortal aura of Gu Fei didn't seem to be as simple as an avatar. This caused everyone to be dumbfounded. His vitality was exuberant, and his body was nurturing the 9 primordial runes. Clearly, this was a saint that had already achieved the Tao. An avatar simply couldn't compare to him. Preposterous. Gu Fei's original body couldn't help but frown. This ancient Tao diagram was truly powerful. If he used his holy weapon, he could easily destroy it. However, Gu Fei didn't want to do so. He wanted to fight with his own strength and didn't want to borrow external help. He wanted to completely break away from his reliance on the holy weapon. 3 pure ones, Gu Fei and his celestial sovereign shouted at the same time. A powerful wave of energy surged out from their bodies. Then, their figures suddenly became blurry. 3 beams of divine light rushed out from the top of their heads and turned into 3 Taoist clones. Everyone who was watching the battle from afar was shocked when they saw Gu Fei using such a powerful technique. At this moment, 8 extremely powerful figures appeared in the sky. Gu Fei and his immortal physique each transformed into 3 avatars. In addition to their true bodies, there were actually 8 Gu Feis in the sky. Rumble. The air trembled as the 8 powerful figures all emitted a shocking aura. It was as if 8 supreme gods of war had appeared in the world. A terrifying pressure spread out, causing countless living beings to tremble. What? Everyone was dumbfounded. This was too shocking. He actually managed to cultivate the 3 Pure Ones technique. An ancient saint cried out in alarm. This was one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. During the archaic years, this type of secret technique was viewed as an undefeated divine technique of the immortal Tao, possessing unmatched power. Break for me. The 8 Gu Feis spoke at the same time and then attacked. The divine sound of the Great Path emanated from each of the 8 figures, and a pitch-black vortex emerged between the 8 of them. Within that vortex, a heaven-swallowing strength appeared, wanting to suck in the ancient Tao diagram and swallow it. Buzz. The void trembled. Although the ancient Tao diagram had lost control and floated in the void, it still emitted a strength that surpassed the limits of the mortal world. The pitch-black vortex was unable to devour it in a short time. Return to truth. The 8 Gu Feis simultaneously used one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the Return to Truth secret technique. 8 mighty forces gathered together, and the power of the Return to Truth reached an unimaginable level. The ancient Tao diagram formed from the 9 primordial Tao patterns emitted specks of light at this time. The Return to Truth secret technique was obliterating the ancient Tao diagram. Countless specks of light rushed out from the ancient Tao diagram and dissipated between heaven and earth. The ancient Tao diagram gradually dimmed. The Return to Truth secret technique possessed unfathomable power, capable of dissolving all power in the world. Success. At this time, the iron-blood Taoist, who had narrowly escaped death, heaved a sigh of relief. It's about to end, an ancient saint muttered to himself. They didn't leave, but carefully observed. The 9 secrets of the immortal Tao could only be encountered by chance, not sought. They used their hearts to sense this power. However, no one could perceive the secrets of this secret technique. Without any suspense, the outcome was already decided. 2 hours later, the ancient Tao diagram was finally swallowed by the pitch-black vortex in the sky. The terrifying pressure radiating from the ancient spirit diagram disappeared. Swoosh. The 6 Tao bodies that Gu Fei and the Celestial Prime's sacred bodies had evolved turned back into 6 streams of clear qi and entered the top of their heads. Then, he put the Celestial Prime's sacred bodies into his inner world. Master. Seeing that Gu Fei had put away the Tao bodies of the 3 Pure Ones and the sacred bodies into his inner world, the iron-blood Taoist hurried over and saluted Gu Fei. Come, let's enter the chaotic divine soil. Gu Fei took the iron-blood Taoist and flew toward the Chaos Well. Some ancient saints knew that the Chaos Well was the entrance to the chaotic divine soil. This secret was actually an open secret among the ancient saints. The so-called Great Era of the human world actually referred to the time when the chaotic divine soil appeared. The chaotic divine soil would appear once every 10,000 years. Entrances to the chaotic divine soil would appear in every ancestral ground, and one could enter the legendary chaotic divine soil through these entrances. In the chaotic divine soil, the destructive power that could kill saints was difficult to reach. It was the only place in the 3 realms and 6 Tao where one could break through to the saint level. Becoming a saint was the dream of every cultivator, but the human world didn't allow the existence of true saints. This was the nature of the great era of the human world. The so-called opportunity to become a saint was in the chaotic divine soil. Gu Fei didn't want to let go of that despicable earth immortal elder, so he entered the chaotic divine soil again to hunt him down. He didn't care whose brother he was. As long as he provoked him, he would kill him. I didn't expect him to become a saint. After the battle ended and Gu Fei left, a few figures appeared on the battlefield, but they only lingered for a while before leaving. The news of Gu Fei becoming a saint spread. Some people were happy, while others were sad. One should know that Gu Fei had many enemies on Buzhou Ancestral Star. These people immediately returned from the human race's ancient road after hearing that Gu Fei had become a saint. Some were afraid of encountering Gu Fei on the human race's ancient road. They would be in big trouble if they encountered this god of death. Damn it! Meanwhile, in the depths of a mountain in the chaotic divine soil, Earth Immortal Elder gritted his teeth. This time, he suffered a great loss. This was the most miserable defeat of his life. This time, in addition to taking back a sacred island, the hundreds of experts sent by the South Pole Immortal Reverend, as well as the first divine general under the South Pole Immortal Reverend, had all died in the third round of the human race. "I'll remember this," Earth Immortal Elder said hatefully. He was separated from unfettered Ziyang because there was a god of death chasing after them. They could only run in different directions. I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Chapter 2232. Just as Gu Fei swept away all his opponents and killed all the experts under Earth Immortal Father's command, on Buzhou Ancestral Star, in the depths of the South Pole Divine Ocean, a young Taoist sitting on a boulder beside a lake opened his eyes. "Someone actually managed to destroy one of my avatars." The young Taoist stood up from the boulder. A breeze blew past, swaying the weeping willow beside the lake. A few colorful divine birds were frolicking on the surface of the lake. "Where is Xian Tong?" the young Taoist asked. As soon as the young Taoist's voice trailed off, a young man in a green robe who looked to be only 11 or 12 years old appeared behind him. Although he looked like a quiet young man, there was a faint aura of the great Tao lingering around him. Every movement he made seemed grand. "Disciple greets master." The green-robed young man bowed respectfully to the young Taoist on the boulder. The young Taoist nodded and said, "Your uncle master might have run into some trouble. Go on my behalf." "Yes." The green-robed young man, Xian Tong, replied. Following that, the young Taoist pointed his finger and shattered the void. A spatial passage appeared before him and extended into the distance. Almost at the same time, a ball of divine light suddenly appeared in the sky above the third trial of the human race. A powerful wave of energy spread out and a huge hole appeared in the sky. That is, on the third trial of the human race, an old man sitting on the peak of a mountain suddenly opened his eyes. "That person from the South Pole Divine Ocean is coming out." The old man looked up at the huge hole in the sky and murmured to himself. His voice sounded extremely old. Does that South Pole Immortal Reverend know that his useless brother is being hunted?" Some ancient sages who had yet to enter the chaotic divine soil muttered to themselves. All the experts on the third trial of the human race came from Buzhou Ancestral Star. Experts from other galaxies had yet to appear on the ancient road of the human race. While the ancient sages were still in a state of bewilderment, a figure appeared in the hole in the void high up in the sky. Someone walked out of the hole in the void. It's not that South Pole Immortal Reverend. This is South Pole Immortal Sovereign's #1 disciple, Xian Tong. Some of the ancient sages were surprised to see the person who came out of the void passage. They thought that it was the South Pole Immortal Sovereign who used a great sacred art to save his good-for-nothing brother. South Pole Immortal Sovereign didn't come personally, but his eldest disciple, Xian Tong, came. The one who walked out of the void passage was the green-robed young man. He was considered a big shot in Buzhou Ancestral Star. The name Xian Tong had once shocked the entire Buzhou Ancestral Star. He was even more famous than the first divine general under the South Pole Immortal Venerable. Although it wasn't the South Pole Immortal Venerate, no one dared to underestimate this Xian Tong. After all, this Xian Tong was also a sage who had sealed his cultivation base. Even some of the ancient sages from the same generation as his master, the South Pole Celestial Exalt, might not be a match for Xian Tong. After Xian Tong came out of the spatial passage behind him disappeared. The first divine general is dead. When Xian Tong walked out of the spatial passage, his expression changed. He actually couldn't sense the first divine general's aura. Who was it that killed the first divine general? Xian Tong's expression was unsightly. No one knew better than him how powerful and terrifying the first divine general was. The first divine general was an ancient god of war. Xian Tong rushed down from the sky and headed toward a place where human cultivators were gathered. Soon, Xian Tong walked out of the place where human cultivators gathered. His eyes were extremely bright. He already knew everything. The previous battle wasn't a secret. The news of the first divine general under the South Pole immortal sovereign had died in battle had already spread throughout the third stage. Gu Fei, Xian Tong muttered to himself. Xian Tong muttered to himself. He had always been in the divine Antarctic Sea and had not left it for a long time. He did not know Gu Fei's origins. However, Gu Fei was already on his must-kill list. Without hesitation, Xian Tong left the third stage and entered the chaotic sacred soil. Meanwhile, the Earth Immortal Elder was blocked by someone in a valley. The valley was filled with hostility and a battle could break out at any moment. "It's you." The Earth Immortal Elder stared murderously at the person in front of him. "Hee, who else could it be but me?" The person grinned cheekily at the Earth Immortal Elder. "You little thief." The Earth Immortal Elder gritted his teeth. He wanted nothing more than to tear the person apart. More than half of his collection had been plundered by this damned fella. This person was none other than He Tian, the one who never attacked unless he had treasures. In terms of sneak attacks, the 12 bandits under Gu Fei were like children in front of the ancestor of thieves. He Tian, be careful of your words. I'm an upright person, not a little thief. He Tian said. If you're not a little thief, then there wouldn't be any thieves in this world. If you know what's good for you, return my things to me, and I'll leave your corpse intact. Otherwise, the Earth Immortal Elder's expression turned ferocious. I'm going crazy. What can a piece of trash like you do to me? Haha. He Tian burst into laughter. This fella was as timid as a mouse, running away at the first sign of trouble. He couldn't be considered an expert at all. It was very easy for He Tian to deal with someone like this. You. What did you say? Trash. The Earth Immortal Elder was enraged. No one had ever dared to say these two words in front of him. His eyes turned red. These two words were taboo to him. One should know that the South Pole Immortal Sovereign was a peerless existence. No one dared to look down on him in Buzhou Ancestral Star. However, some of the older generation knew that the South Pole Immortal Sovereign had a useless younger brother. The South Pole Immortal Reverend's good-for-nothing younger brother had cultivated for countless years, but he was only a great perfection quasi-sage. He wasn't even a sage. Even among the disciples of the South Pole Immortal Reverend, there were a few who had already become sages during the ancient desolate era. Although the Earth Immortal Elder knew that he was useless, he didn't want to hear it from others. I'm going to kill you. The Earth Immortal Elder flipped his right hand, and the yin-yang mirror of life and death appeared in his hand. Buzz. The void trembled and a black light shot out from the yin-yang mirror, piercing towards He Tian. This was the power of death from the yin-yang mirror of life and death. Even a saint would die if they were hit by the black light. Of course, the mirror in the Earth Immortal Elder's hand would never be able to kill a saint. The golden holy sword in Erebus' hand vibrated, and a resplendent sword light rushed out from it, destroying the black light that pierced through it. Die, this is what you get for offending me. As soon as He Tian destroyed the black light, Earth Immortal Old Man shouted and waved his hand. A cloud of black smoke rushed out of his hand and swept towards He Tian. What is that? He Tian was shocked. He could sense a terrifying aura of decay coming from the black smoke. It was as if he would be corroded if he came into contact with even a little bit of it. Could it be? You even have something like this? Everywhere the black energy passed by, the void would be annihilated soundlessly. This made Erebus think of something that could possess such astonishing power. Not bad. You actually know something like this. Earth Immortal Old Man was surprised. He didn't expect He Tian to recognize it. It was absolutely unique on Buzhou Ancestral Planet. This was corpse powder, and it was not ordinary corpse powder, but something left behind after the corpse of a saint had completely decayed. This thing contained a terrifying corpse poison. As long as one breathed it in or came into contact with the skin, it would be very troublesome even for a saint. Ordinary people would be directly decayed by this corpse poison, and their bodies and souls would be destroyed. Roar, chaotic universe. Haitian could no longer stay calm. He roared and used the yin-yang technique. Yin and yang Dao patterns intertwined and formed a Tai Chi yin-yang diagram. The void in front of him rippled like water, and all the black chi that was sweeping towards him was guided away by a strange force from the yin-yang pattern. Humph, don't waste your energy. This corpse powder won't dissipate. You're dead for sure. Earth Immortal Old Man was very pleased. Is that so? A smile suddenly appeared on Haitian's face. Then, the black smoke that enveloped him gathered in front of him and formed a black ball the size of a fist. How is this possible? Earth Immortal Old Man was shocked to see this. He didn't expect Yifutian to have such a method to take away his corpse powder. Nothing is impossible. In front of Haitian, a black substance floated and sank. It emitted an aura of decay that made one's heart palpitate. This corpse powder was even more terrifying than corpse energy. A strange power was controlling all of this. Here you go. Just as Earth Immortal Old Man recovered from his shock, Haitian had already raised his right hand. The black smoke in front of him immediately shot towards Earth Immortal Old Man. Earth Immortal Old Man retreated without hesitation. He wasn't Haitian. He couldn't take this attack, so he could only retreat. Bang! Just as Earth Immortal Father was retreating, the black ball exploded and turned into strands of black chi that enveloped an area of 10 miles in radius. What? Lu Dixian Wang truly felt helpless and lonely. The yin-yang divine light rushed out of the mirror and enveloped Lu Dixian Wang in a divine barrier. The layer of yin-yang divine light blocked all the corpse poison powder around Earth Immortal Old Man. You want to leave without leaving that thing behind? A cruel and callous expression appeared on Erebus' face. He also used the golden holy sword to protect himself, and then chased after Earth Immortal Elder. As Haitian chased after Earth Immortal Old Man, the first disciple of the South Pole Immortal Sovereign also entered the chaotic divine soil. Xian Tong immediately undid all the seals on his body. An astonishing aura of the divine path erupted from his body, startling many people. Gu Fei, your time has come, Xian Tong said coldly. Chapter 22:34. Xian Tong's aura of the divine path was vast and mighty. In that instant, the saints in the chaotic divine soil all felt this powerful aura. More saints have come to the chaotic divine soil. The geniuses from the ancestral lands were all astonished. No matter how powerful they were, as long as they did not become saints, they were just ants in front of these saints. Are they even going to let us live? Some geniuses lamented. This was supposed to be their opportunity to become saints, but now that so many saints had appeared in the chaotic divine soil, this place was full of variables. Gu Fei had already become a saint, but someone had tried after Gu Fei had become a saint. It seemed that this chaotic divine soil did not prevent other geniuses from becoming saints. In this era, the greatest variable in history would appear. Some saints guessed that this might be related to that matter. The great calamity was coming, and all living beings in the 3 realms and 6 paths would not be spared. This was definitely a calamity even more terrifying than the Chaos era. This time, perhaps no one would be able to avoid it. There's really a problem. At this time, in the depths of the chaotic divine soil, a middle-aged man wearing animal skins and holding a stone staff stood on top of a stone mountain and murmured to himself. This middle-aged man was Jiang Renhuang. The Jiang clan was one of the great clans of the human clan in the ancient era. Even the Jiang clan of the ancients was only a branch of this clan. Jiang Renhuang was from the Jiang clan. I hope this time I can put an end to those guys. Jiang Renhuang looked up into the sky. His eyes became extremely deep, as if he wanted to see through all the secrets of the 3 realms and 6 paths. That demon is really cunning. Jiang Renhuang chased Huanimo into the depths of the chaotic divine soil. He had chased him all the way here, but Huanimo had escaped. If his body was fine, he would be able to kill that demon easily. But now, even though he had obtained a drop of immortal godly liquid from Gu Fei, which could suppress the corpse poison in his body, The corpse poison was too powerful. It would be difficult to expel it in a short time. Huanma was very clear about how terrifying the ancestral devil corpse poison was. Even someone as powerful as Jiang Renhuang had no choice but to fake his death to save his life. Time waits for no man. I wonder how long the backup plan left behind by those fellows can last. Jiang Renhuang sighed and disappeared from the stone mountain. He needed to find a place to cultivate in isolation. He had to put the Huanma's matter aside. The illusory devil cultivates the heaven-devouring demonic art, which allows him to devour all the spiritual qi in the world. Although the illusory devil's vitality is greatly damaged, if he continues to devour the spiritual qi of human experts, he will soon recover. But there was nothing he could do. Jiang Renhuang could feel the impending disaster. Only by completely recovering his cultivation and getting rid of the ancestor devil corpse poison in his body would he be qualified to fight. Old man, where are you going? While Jiang Renhuang was looking for a place to cultivate in seclusion, in another area of the chaotic divine soil, He Tian was chasing after the earth immortal elder. The two figures moved quickly between the mountain ridges. Every time He Tian took a step, a yin-yang Dao pattern would appear beneath his feet. His speed was so fast that it was probably not inferior to Gu Fei's extreme speed of 8 steps. The Earth Immortal Elder didn't make a sound. He just kept running, trying to get rid of He Tian. But He Tian obviously cultivated an extreme speed movement technique. He chased after the Earth Immortal Elder at a leisurely pace, shouting from time to time. The distance between the two was shrinking. Damn it! The Earth Immortal Elder was both shocked and angry. He had never been in such a difficult situation before. He was actually being chased by a young brat. If this were to spread, he would become a laughing stock. While He Tian was chasing after the Earth Immortal Elder, the eldest disciple of the South Pole Immortal Venerable, Xian Tong, had already made his move. The life medallion is not broken. Uncle is still alive. Xian Tong heaved a sigh of relief. The life medallion in his hand showed no signs of breaking, which meant that the Earth Immortal Elder was still alive. If the Earth Immortal Elder was killed, then Xian Tong would be in big trouble. In that direction, Xian Tong muttered to himself as he took out a jade token that was only 2 fingers wide. The front of the token had the words, Life Token, written on it, and the back had the name Earth Immortal Father written on it. This was the Earth Immortal Elder's life medallion. If it was broken, it meant that the Earth Immortal Elder had been killed. With the life medallion in hand, Xian Tong could easily sense where the Earth Immortal Elder was. Soon, Xian Tong's figure disappeared into the void. Rumble. At this moment, thunder rumbled from the depths of the chaotic divine soil. Lightning bolts as thick as mountains struck down from the sky. The lightning brought with it an aura of destruction. It was as if the heavens were angry and wanted to suppress those who dared to challenge the heavenly might. Someone is undergoing tribulation. The fluctuation from the depths of the chaotic divine soil alarmed many people. Ever since Gu Fei became a saint, everyone had been observing and didn't dare to try. Now, someone was finally trying to break through to that level again. The tribulation lightning was wreaking havoc. Dark clouds seemed to fall from the sky to the ground. It was extremely shocking. The heavenly might was vast and mighty, wanting to obliterate that person. At this moment, someone realized that the person undergoing tribulation was actually an old man. Roar. The old man stood under the tribulation clouds with a halberd in his hand. His entire body emitted an incomparably strong aura of life as he pointed the halberd at the sky. Come, I'm going all out. The old man was unprecedentedly powerful. This was a power that surpassed the great perfection quasi-saint realm. He had completely come into contact with that realm. He brandished the ancient halberd in his hand and blocked all the lightning bolts that came crashing down towards him. This old man was fighting with his life. He had lived for a long time and knew many great secrets of the world. If he couldn't become a saint in this life, then he wouldn't have the chance anymore. The tribulation of the saint was still ongoing. The pressure in the world was getting stronger and stronger. The heavenly Tao seal of the supreme expert had yet to appear. The old man only lasted for half a day under the tribulation of the saint. In the end, he still died. He couldn't become a saint and only ended up with his body and soul destroyed. Seeing this scene, Everyone couldn't help but sigh. These old antiques had lived for countless years. Some of them were even people from the Great Desolate Era who were lucky enough to survive. Their greatest wish in life was to become a saint. Seeing the old man die from the tribulation, a few people couldn't help but waver. There was no one who didn't fear death. Moreover, the longer one lived, the more they feared death. The tribulation had ended. Another expert had fallen. The path to becoming a saint was definitely a path filled with danger. Who knew how many of the most outstanding existences of the human race had stepped on this path and fought against the people from the ancestral lands? That demonic old man. At this time, Gu Fei was searching for traces of demonic old man and unfettered violet Sunday. If he didn't eliminate the roots, the grass would grow again when the spring wind blows. He couldn't let the two of them escape so easily. Lord, let's split up and search. Ironblood Taoist said, very well. If you find that guy, crush this jade talisman. With that, Gu Fei handed a jade talisman to Ironblood Taoist. Ironblood Taoist hurriedly took the talisman. It was a communication talisman. As long as he crushed it, Gu Fei would appear in an instant. The two of them split up and continued their search in two different directions. How could that Gu Fei be so monstrous? Unfettered Violet Sun muttered to himself in a valley. He came from an ancient power, so he wasn't afraid of Gu Fei. However, he didn't want to take the risk either. Gu Fei was an extremely dangerous existence. Unfettered Violet Sun planned to hide in the chaotic divine soil for now. Then, he would find the spatial passage that connected the soil to the outside world and leave. Gu Fei had already become a saint, so his cultivation and battle prowess were no longer suppressed in the chaotic divine soil. If he encountered Gu Fei here, only death would await him. Unfettered Violet Sun was very careful. After all, finding a person in the vast chaotic divine soil was as difficult as finding a needle in a haystack. While Unfettered Violet Sun was hiding, He Tian finally caught up to Lucien Wang. He intercepted him, and a great battle broke out. Don't force me. Lucien Wang was both shocked and angry. The yin-yang mirror in his hand vibrated continuously. Rays of black death light shot out from the mirror and swept toward He Tian. The black divine light of death pierced through the void, leaving a pitch-black spatial crack wherever it passed. Lucien Wang was really forced into a corner by He Tian. As the saying goes, even a cornered dog will jump over a wall, let alone a human. Lucien Wang's counterattack was no joke. Haha, so what if I force you? What can you do to me? He Tian laughed. Since that's the case, let's perish together. Lucien Wang's expression became extremely ferocious. His eyes also became somewhat crazed, as if he really wanted to fight to the death with He Tian. However, He Tian knew that this guy was only bluffing. If this guy had dared to fight to the death with him, he wouldn't have been able to escape earlier. Someone like Lucien Wang, who cherished his life so much, would never fight to the death with others. Haha, I'm dying of laughter. Fight to the death? Do you dare? He Tian laughed again, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He hadn't been this happy in a long time. If he killed this guy, he would be able to obtain a divine item that suited him the best. You think I won't dare? You dare to look down on me? Lucien Wang's voice trembled as if he was so angry at He Tian that his body was shaking. He Tian's disdainful gaze stung him deeply. No one dares to look down on me. You will pay the price. Lucien Wang roared and was about to use a secret technique. At that moment, an extremely powerful aura of the divine path appeared in the distance. What? Mahakala sensed the aura of the divine path, and without thinking, he used the yin-yang great shift, instantly disappearing from where he was, fleeing. Chapter 22:35. The person who appeared in the distance was extremely powerful. It was a saint, so He Tian had no choice but to retreat. 23 ZW. Buzz. Hundreds of thousands of miles away, the void suddenly trembled like ripples on water. Then, black and white Tao patterns emerged and intertwined to form a spatial passage. A figure walked out of the spatial passageway formed by the interweaving black and white yin-yang Tao patterns. This person was He Tian. Outrageous. If I could restore my previous life's cultivation, I would be able to crush this guy with one finger. He Tian was filled with resentment. He felt extremely sullen, but there was nothing he could do about it. The other party was a saint, and he wasn't strong enough to deal with them. It seems like I need to find a way to become a saint, He Tian said in a serious tone. It was rare for him to be this serious. He truly felt a great deal of pressure, especially in this primal chaos divine soil. In this place, ancient saints who had sealed themselves could completely undo the seals on their bodies and restore their saint-level cultivation. There were no restrictions on ancient saints here. Only Zhangren Huang, who had appeared for a brief moment, could intimidate these super antiques. Apart from Zhangren Huang, these super antiques had nothing to fear. Just as He Tian was about to leave, a figure appeared in front of Dimu Xianwang. "Greetings, Uncle Master." Saint Xian Tong respectfully greeted Dimu Xianwang. Although Dimu Xianwang's cultivation wasn't that great, his identity made Saint Xian Tong not dare to slight him. After all, this person was his own Uncle Master. A high and mighty saint was actually bowing to a grand completion half-saint. Anyone who saw this would surely be shocked to the core. Based on everyone's understanding, how could a sage possibly bow to a great perfection half-sage? Why are you only here now? Why didn't you wait for me to die? Dimu Xianwang pointed at Saint Xiantong's nose and scolded him. A few droplets of saliva even splashed onto Saint Xiantong's face. "Martial nephew came late. Please forgive me, Uncle Master," Sage Xiantong said hurriedly. He lowered his stance and retracted his sage aura. If he did not retract his sage aura, Earth Immortal Old Man would not be able to withstand it. The Earth Immortal Old Man was definitely an anomaly in the cultivation world. He had been cultivating for countless years, but his cultivation base was still stuck at the major stage of quasi-saint realm. He was the younger brother of the South Pole Immortal Reverend. Among the disciples of the South Pole Immortal Reverend, a few had already become sages. However, the Earth Immortal Reverend was still a great perfection quasi-sage. Even with the South Pole Celestial Venerable's ability, it was difficult for him to help the Earth Immortal Father break through the shackles of cultivation and achieve the Sage Tao. What's wrong with my big brother? His brother is about to be killed, and he can still sit still. The Earth Immortal Old Man was chased all the way into the chaotic divine soil by He Tian. He had been holding back his anger, and it almost drove him crazy. Now, whoever he caught would be unlucky. Therefore, Saint Xiantong was very unlucky to be scolded by the Earth Immortal Old Man. If it was someone else who dared to scold him like this, he would have slapped that person to death instead of enduring it. Saint Xiantong waited until the Earth Immortal Old Man was done scolding him before saying, "Who is so daring to chase after Uncle Master? I will definitely avenge Uncle Master." One had to admit that Saint Xiantong's self-restraint was really good. Even after being scolded by the Earth Immortal Old Man, his expression did not change and he remained calm. "Very well, capture that Gu Fei immediately. Remember, I want him alive. I will torture him to my heart's content to vent my anger," the Earth Immortal Old Man said while gasping for air. This was the most dangerous battle he had ever encountered since he started cultivating. He was almost killed. If he had not sensed that the situation was not right and escaped immediately, he would have lost his life in the third stage of the human race's ancient road. Although he managed to escape with his life, the hundreds of experts under him were all killed by Gu Fei and the others. Even the first divine general under the South Pole Immortal Reverend died in battle. The South Pole Immortal Reverend even lost an immortal clone. "Yes, Uncle Master." Saint Xiantong nodded and said, "Uncle Master, I will capture that Gu Fei and bring him to you for you to deal with. You should return to the South Pole Divine Ocean first." "Humph, I don't want to stay in this godforsaken place either, but this might be my last chance to break through to the sacred grade. I don't want to give up, so just protect me," Lu Di Immortal Old Man said. He did not want to leave just like that. However, although he was as timid as a mouse, he had an obsession in his heart, and that was to become a sage. This was something he had persisted in for countless years. He did not give up, nor did he want to give up. He did not want to live under the shadow of his big brother for the rest of his life. "This," Saint Xiantong said hesitantly. If Lu Di Immortal Old did not leave this place, then his Uncle Master would be in danger of being killed. As soon as he entered the chaotic divine soil, he sensed the auras of at least 3 sages appearing in this place. Moreover, this was only on the surface. No one knew how many Empyrean saints had secretly entered this place. The South Pole Immortal Venerate was extremely domineering in the past. He had definitely offended many people, so it was hard to guarantee that there were no enemies of the South Pole Immortal Venerate among these Empyrean saints. Anyone who dared to oppose the South Pole Immortal Venerate was definitely not someone to be trifled with. Why? You don't want to? Lu Di Immortal Old Man's face darkened when he saw Saint Xian Tong's hesitation. Yes, I am willing to protect you, Uncle Master. Saint Xian Tong had no other choice. Lu Di Immortal Old Man was his Uncle Master and the younger brother of the South Pole Immortal Venerate, who only had one brother. It could be said that the South Pole Immortal Sovereign treated his younger brother extremely well. He even gave his own temporary residence to his younger brother. No one knew better than Saint Xian Tong how much the South Pole Immortal Venerate loved his younger brother. Haha, very well. If I can successfully become a sage, I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of Big Brother. Lu Di Immortal Old Man patted Saint Xian Tong's shoulder. Thank you, Uncle Master. Saint Xian Tong hurriedly bowed with a smile on his face. Although Saint Xian Tong was already a powerful ancient sage, he was well aware of the distance between him and his master. The South Pole Immortal Venerate was definitely one of the strongest existences on ancestral star Buzhou. Finally, Saint Xian Tong and Lu Di Immortal Old Man began to walk in the chaotic sacred soil. They wanted to find a place where qi condensation gathered and attempt to break through to the sage realm. Meanwhile, Gu Fei was also looking for a spiritual land for Ironblood Taoist to cultivate. Ironblood Taoist was also a major completion quasi-sage, so he was also qualified to break through to the sage realm. Once he succeeded, their strength would increase greatly. At this time, Ironblood Taoist had already released Gu Zhong and the others. Chaotic qi lingered in this chaotic, sacred soil. The state of the heaven and earth here was still in the early stages of creation. All living things were still in a strange state where they were about to be born but had yet to be born. In this chaotic sacred soil, many powerful living beings were nurtured. Some of these living beings were already born and were extremely powerful. There were also many ominous lands in the chaotic sacred soil. These ominous lands were occupied by peerless and powerful chaotic species. Not even ancient sages were willing to set foot in some of these ominous lands, let alone ordinary people. Roar! Just as Gu Fei approached a region filled with surging spiritual qi, a roar came from the depths of that region. The sound waves spread for 30,000 li, causing the void to tremble. The expressions of Gu Zhong and the 12 bandits immediately changed. They sensed an extremely powerful fiendish aura, causing their hearts to tremble. I'll go take a look. Gu Fei asked everyone to stop and entered the spiritual land alone. Very soon, intense energy fluctuations were emitted from the depths of the spiritual land. Although Gu Zhong and the others were very far away, they were still nearly suffocated by the 2 mighty auras that were emitted from the depths of the spiritual land. Although they were far away, they could still see the vague silhouette of a huge beast in the chaotic qi. What a powerful beast! The Iron-Blood Taoist muttered to himself. Iron-Blood Taoist muttered to himself. He was a great perfection quasi-sage. He could clearly sense the strength and terror of that beast in the spiritual land. It was a chaotic species that could challenge a sage. Soon, Gu Fei retreated from the depths of the spiritual land. There were traces of blood on his body, which shocked everyone. However, they soon discovered that the blood on Gu Fei's body was not his. Let's go. This place is not suitable. Gu Fei did not say much. He led the group around the ominous land and headed towards the depths of the chaotic sacred soil. With the sensitivity of a sage, Gu Fei could sense that the spiritual qi in the depths of the chaotic sacred soil was the densest. There were definitely many treasured lands in the depths of the chaotic sacred soil. While Gu Fei was heading towards the depths of the chaotic sacred soil, He Tian was also looking for a place to undergo his tribulation. He wanted to attempt to break through to the sage realm. If he did not become a sage, he would always be an ant. Only by becoming a sage would he have the power to protect himself when the tribulation came. The memories of Erebus' soul had mostly been awakened as his cultivation continued to improve. He could vaguely sense that a great tribulation that would engulf the 3 realms and 6 paths was about to break out in the near future. He did not want to die. At this time, many people took the risk to enter the depths of the chaotic sacred soil. Roar. Suddenly, a world-shaking roar rang out from somewhere in the central region of the divine chaotic soil. A gigantic beast charged out from a valley. Opening its mouth, it swallowed the 3 human cultivators standing outside the valley's entrance into its stomach. Chaotic species, let's go. In the distance, a few people were walking towards the valley. When they saw this scene, they turned pale with fright and immediately retreated. Roar. The chaotic species roared at the sky and pounced on the escaping human cultivators, swallowing them as well. Similar incidents were happening in other places. Chapter 22:36. The center of the chaotic divine soil had a radius of millions of miles and was extremely vast. This was the place where all kinds of worldly essence gathered. In these places, there were volcanoes erupting with the purest fire elemental energy. This was a paradise for fire elemental cultivators. There were even powerful cultivators who directly entered the volcanoes to cultivate. Some places were filled with cold air and were places of extreme Yin. These were places wherein energy gathered. These were places where cultivators who cultivated the extreme Yin technique cultivated. Cultivating here would yield twice the results with half the effort. The chaotic divine soil was like a place where chaos first formed. All kinds of worldly essence that evolved from chaos could be found here. Yin, Yang, 5 elements, earth, water, fire, and wind. These natural forces gathered in the center of the chaotic divine soil. However, these places weren't without a master. The natives of the chaotic divine soil were the first batch of masters of these places. However, with the appearance of the human race, this situation was broken. However, the chaotic descendants were incomparably powerful and possessed the bloodline of chaotic beasts. Some of them could even transform into pure-blooded beasts. In the depths of chaos, most of the ominous places were occupied by extremely powerful beasts. When Gu Fei's group arrived at the foot of a mountain shrouded in lingering spiritual energy, a golden bird shot down from the mountain like a bolt of lightning. Swoosh! The golden bird's sharp claws directly clawed at Gu Fei's head with extreme speed. Evil creature! Gu Fei bellowed and directly punched upwards. His fist collided with the sharp claws of the giant golden bird, producing a sonorous sound. The golden bird's claws were as hard as gold. Gu Fei's punch failed to shatter the pair of golden claws. The golden bird screeched and soared into the sky. Drops of golden blood dripped down from the sky. Although Gu Fei did not shatter the golden bird's sharp claws with a single punch, the golden bird was still injured. Golden-winged rock. When Gu Fei saw the golden bird, his pupils involuntarily shrank. This kind of ominous bird was a great omen from the great desolate era. Legend has it that it fed on dragons and was the bane of the dragon race. It's not that ancient bird, Iron Blood Taoist said. Although the golden bird was strong, it was not a pure-blooded golden rock. It was a remnant of chaos. Human, hurry up and retreat. Otherwise, I'll eat all of you up. The golden bird flew high up into the sky and circled in the sky. A powerful will rippled out from the golden bird's body, and a voice rang out in everyone's hearts. A baleful aura rose between heaven and earth. The golden bird in the sky was clearly not a kind creature, and it was extremely domineering. If it wasn't for the vicious bird not being able to see through Gu Fei's depths, how could it have been so easy to talk to? You're just a random bird, yet you dare to be so impudent in front of me? 2 beams of light shot out from Gu Fei's eyes as he scanned the golden bird in the sky. A powerful aura emanated from his body. What did you say? The golden bird in the sky was enraged. It then opened its beak at Gu Fei and sucked in. A heaven-devouring force burst out from its mouth. Shing! The void trembled as a golden whirlpool appeared in the sky. Shing! The heaven-devouring force descended from the sky and enveloped Gu Fei instantly, sucking him into the golden whirlpool. What? This? When Gu Zhong and the others saw this, their jaws dropped. To think that Gu Fei would be swallowed alive by the golden bird in the sky. How was this possible? Ha! The golden bird in the sky laughed out loud. The golden whirlpool disappeared and Gu Fei was swallowed into its stomach. This was a mystic skill of the golden rock race. In the ancient times, a pure-blooded golden rock could swallow a dragon whole with a single breath. Oomph! You look strong, but you're just an ant. I thought that I've met a strong opponent. The golden bird said in disdain. Come. Be eaten by me obediently. Ha! The golden bird said savagely. This group of humans was pretty decent. Every single one of them was emitting a strong aura of blood. This was definitely a top-grade food. How could this be? Revered master. Gu Zhong, Yao Yu and the others were both shocked and enraged. They did not try to escape. Given their cultivation bases, they were worse than ants in the face of this bird. There was no way they could escape. Our master won't be eaten so easily. The steel-blood Taoist's voice was trembling. He could not believe that someone as strong as Gu Fei would be eaten by this bird just like that. Eat all of them. Ha! The golden bird was shouting. In its eyes, these humans were nothing but food. Furthermore, there was even a true dragon that had taken on a human form amongst them. What should we do? Zhong Liming's face was pale. She did not want to die. We have to believe in revered master. Gu Zhong said. He did not believe that Gu Fei would be eaten just like that. One must know that Gu Fei was a martial sage. They were both saints. By right, this golden bird should not be a match for Gu Fei. Ha! Eat all of them. The golden bird laughed heartily and unleashed the great technique from before. A golden vortex appeared high up in the sky, emitting an unstoppable devouring power. Gu Zhong and the others flew up into the sky. They were about to be devoured by the golden whirlpool. Bam! Just at this moment, a dull thud rang out from within the golden bird's body. With a tragic cry, the golden bird fell down from the sky. Boom! The golden whirlpool in the sky suddenly dissipated. Gu Zhong and the others felt their bodies lighten as they landed on the ground. What's going on? Everyone was bewildered. At this moment, the golden bird fell from the sky like a golden sun. With a boom, it smashed a huge crater in the ground. Golden light surged in the crater like golden waves, and an extremely powerful aura of the divine path erupted. The powerful pressure of the divine path caused the surrounding space to tremble. Buzz! The thunder god spear in Gu Zhong's hand trembled. Under the stimulation of the pressure of the saint level, the great path imprints within the thunder god's spear actually showed signs of awakening. The phoenix tribulation in the Ironblood Taoist's hand also had patterns that looked like divine flames appear. A wave of pressure spread out from the two saint artifacts to block the might of the golden bird. Even so, Gu Zhong and the others could still feel a great pressure. It was as though a primordial divine mountain was pressing down on them. As expected, those who are not saints are ants. Gu Zhong and the others could not help but sigh. Before a saint-level cultivator, even if they had saint-level weapons, they were definitely not enough. Chapter 22:37. The powerful pressure of the saint level spread out, shaking the entire world. If they were not in the divine soil of chaos but in the human realm, the space within a radius of 100,000 miles would have been crushed by the pressure. Too powerful. Gu Zhong and the others were extremely shocked. The divine implements in his and the Iron Blood Taoist's hands were almost completely awakened. The Thunder God Spear and the Phoenix's Catastrophe both had the divine sound of the Great Path. A mass of divine light rushed out from the Thunder God Spear and the Phoenix's Catastrophe, enveloping everyone. Everyone was protected by the divine implements, but they were still like lonely boats in the ocean. They could be swallowed by the boundless golden ocean at any time. Still so fierce, a voice was heard. Then, the terrifying pressure within a radius of 100,000 miles retreated like a tide. In the huge pit that was created by the golden bird, a figure stood in the golden divine light. No matter how powerful the golden bird was, it could not shake this figure. The divine pressure of the saint level faded. Gu Zhong and the others breathed a sigh of relief. The golden bird was still resisting. It was a remnant of chaos and had the blood of the golden rock in its veins. How could it be willing to submit to a human? Boom! The golden bird was going all out. Countless golden patterns rushed out from its body, turning into a golden destructive storm. It wanted to kill Gu Fei right away. You really won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Gu Fei stretched out his right hand and pressed forward. The destructive storm that rushed out from the golden bird was immediately blocked. Then, Gu Fei's right hand shook slightly. The golden torrent formed by the patterns immediately collapsed. What? The golden bird was shocked. It never thought that the other party would be so powerful. He was able to break its killing move so easily. How was this possible? The divine bird was very confident. Because within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, there was no remnant of chaos that could be its opponent. It was precisely because of this that the divine bird could occupy a spirit mountain to train. Swoosh! At that moment, Gu Fei took a step forward and appeared next to the golden bird in an instant. He stomped on the bird. Bang! Gu Fei stepped on the golden bird. The golden bird's belly had already been cut open by Gu Fei, and it was severely injured. Now that Gu Fei had stepped on it, it was even more injured. It coughed up a large mouthful of blood. This divine bird deserved it. It actually dared to swallow Gu Fei into its stomach. As a result, tragedy ensued. Gu Fei tore open its stomach and rushed out. Of course, with the golden bird's cultivation, the heavy injuries on its body could not endanger its life. As long as its primordial spirit was not destroyed, it could recover. However, this was an injury of the Great Path after all. It was difficult to heal. At this time, golden blood had already flowed out of the pit. Human, you're going overboard. You've got to know that I'm a saint beast that's high and mighty. The golden bird was clamoring. Being stepped on by a human almost made it go crazy. It couldn't accept this reality. So what if you are a holy beast? I have never eaten a holy beast before. How about I cook you and make a pot of golden bird soup? That sounds pretty good. Gu Fei rubbed his chin and said. He was truly tempted. Even though this golden bird was not a true golden rock, the bloodline of the golden rock flowed through its veins. The bloodline of the golden rock contained a power of inheritance. If this power were to be converted and absorbed, even a sage would benefit immensely. I'm going to die with you. The golden bird was extremely arrogant. A destructive power exploded from its body. Within its body, the 9 golden Tao patterns began to crumble. It was going to destroy the primordial 9 Tao patterns. The primordial 9 Tao patterns were the strongest power of the Great Path that the golden bird possessed. If the primordial 9 Tao patterns were to crumble, the golden bird would be destroyed in both body and spirit. At the same time, Gu Fei would be severely injured as well. Suppress. Gu Fei shouted out as he pushed down with his right palm. 9 Tao patterns of chaos appeared on his palm as the aura of chaos coiled around it. It was as though a chaotic world was evolving within his palm. The 9 Tao patterns of chaos rushed out from Gu Fei's palm and imprinted themselves into the golden bird's body. The Tao patterns of chaos suppressed the primordial 9 Tao patterns that were about to crumble in the golden bird's body. At the same time, they sealed all of the golden bird's power. The golden bird felt the changes in its body. It was extremely shocked. Yi Futian's methods were truly brilliant. Now, it could not even die. Bang! Gu Fei smashed his fist on the golden bird's head and knocked it out. The battle ended without any suspense. Even the powerful golden bird was no match for Gu Fei. Gu Fei and the others had successfully taken over the Divine Mountain. The Divine Mountain was filled with spiritual qi. There was a place where spiritual qi gathered beneath the ground. This was a treasured land that cultivators dreamed of. Cultivating here would yield twice the results with half the effort. Especially in the chaotic divine soil, it was not an easy task to find a place like this. Gu Fei and the others settled down on the Divine Mountain. After that, he made some arrangements and sat down on the peak of the Divine Mountain, personally guarding it. That golden bird was really unlucky. Gu Fei did not cook it. Instead, he suppressed it in the mountain and river cauldron. It was a pity to kill a saint beast. If the divine bird surrendered, it would definitely be a great help to Gu Fei. This was because the divine bird cultivated the most powerful technique of the golden-winged roc. At the same time, it also possessed extreme speed. With a flap of its wings, it could fly hundreds of thousands of miles away in an instant. The speed of the golden bird was definitely not below Gu Fei's extreme speed of 8 steps. Within the mountain and river cauldron, in the void, a huge golden bird shone with dazzling golden light. It looked like a golden sun. 9 primordial chaos chi reached out from the void and wrapped around the bird. "Human, let me out," the golden bird roared. At this moment, it was truly afraid. It did not expect the other party to have an extreme Dao Saint treasure. The aura of an extreme Dao Saint treasure made its heart palpitate. However, no matter how the golden bird cursed, Gu Fei was too lazy to care. At this moment, the Iron Blood Taoist was in seclusion. His cultivation had long reached a bottleneck. It was time for him to make the final push. Once he succeeded, a saint would be born in this world. Gu Zhong and the others were not idling either. They were all cultivating hard, wanting to increase their cultivation and strength. At this moment, they desperately wanted to obtain more power. Just as Gu Fei subdued the golden bird and entered the main divine mountain, He Tian was also heading towards the depths of the chaotic divine soil. He was very careful. After wandering around the periphery of the chaotic divine soil for a few days, he finally entered the area ahead. Very quickly, he found the hidden mark left behind by Gu Fei. Chapter 22:38. Gu Fei had left a secret mark, and He Tian followed it all the way to the divine mountain. However, what He Tian did not know was that a mysterious person was following him. That guy has become a saint. How is that possible? While He Tian was heading towards the divine mountain where Gu Fei was, in another region of the chaotic divine soil, a divine ape stood on the peak of a stone mountain and said such words. That person has really become a saint. People in other regions were also talking to themselves. The chaotic divine soil was very vast, not smaller than a large world. Moreover, there were entrances to the chaotic divine soil in all the ancestral lands, and people from all the ancestral lands could enter this world. It was said that the chaotic divine soil could communicate with the 3 realms and the 6 paths. This was definitely not a legend. Roar! In the depths of the chaotic divine sea, on a continent, a golden divine ape was roaring at the sky. The terrifying pressure of a saint beast spread out in all directions, and the golden divine light that radiated from the divine ape swept up into the sky, dispersing all the chi in the surrounding area of 100,000 miles. The previous saint tribulation couldn't have been caused by my little brother, right? The golden divine ape was 10 feet tall, and its whole body was glowing with golden light. Its whole body seemed to be cast from peerless divine gold, giving people an extremely strong sense of oppression. In the sky above the chaotic divine soil, there was a divine palace floating in the endless chi of primal chaos. At this moment, a beam of divine light broke through the layers of chi of primal chaos, landed in the divine palace, and quickly walked into the largest hall in the divine palace. Report: a great demon wearing silver armor with a flag on his back rushed into the hall, then knelt under a throne in the middle of the hall. On both sides of the hall stood many warriors. Speak. On the throne in the middle, a majestic voice rang out. Report, clan leader, that person has appeared. The great demon kneeling under the throne said hurriedly, I found that person. On the throne, a figure suddenly stood up. This person's body was surrounded by a special kind of power of the great Tao, and no one could see his face clearly. That figure gave off a very blurry feeling. Even with the divine eye, one could not see it clearly. There's news about Big Brother. Below the throne, a young man in purple armor standing on the right said excitedly, Speak quickly. The voice of the figure on the throne was obviously excited. Yes, that person appeared in the 3rd stage of the ancient road of the human race. He has now entered the primal chaos world, but we have not found his location. The messenger great demon said, A bunch of trash. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and get lost. The man on the throne roared, Yes. The messenger demon hurriedly scrambled out. Clanlord, your image pay attention to your image. Next to the throne stood a chubby old man with white hair and eyebrows. Amidst his white hair, two short purple divine horns could be vaguely seen. Image my ass. That's just how I am. As long as my fists are hard enough, those fellows won't be able to cause any trouble, the man on the throne said. At this time, the dignified pressure from before had already disappeared, replaced by the aura of a ruffian. When the short and fat old man heard this, a disapproving look appeared on his face. However, he did not say anything else, because he knew the temperament of this fellow very well. The dozen or so generals standing on either side of the throne didn't even dare to breathe loudly, much less speak. Master, I want to go there myself. The young man below the throne stood up and cupped his hands. The man thought for a moment, then said, That's fine. Bring those fellows with you. Yes. The young man was overjoyed. He hurriedly said, then turned and walked out. The primal chaos world is already in chaos. It doesn't seem appropriate for you to let them go out. The old man standing next to the throne said again, Uncle, can't you give me some peace and quiet? The man said somewhat impatiently. This old man's status was very shocking. Even the master of the divine palace had to be respectful to him, not daring to slight him. However, this old man was always chattering, like a swarm of flies buzzing around him. This made the master of the divine palace very unhappy. I'm just worried about your martial nephew. He's a good seedling. If he is properly nurtured, he might be able to soar into the heavens and become a powerhouse. The old man said, Furthermore, if something happens to him, you won't be able to explain it to your brother. Even if you don't care about explaining it to your brother, our dragon clan will still lose a future powerhouse. Don't you think so? The old man wanted to continue. Uncle, why don't you go and make a trip? The man suddenly interrupted the old man. The old man couldn't help but be startled. Don't bother with this and that. If you're worried, go and secretly watch my disciple. The man said, All right. The old man thought about it again and again, then left the divine palace. There's going to be a good show to watch. The master of the divine palace smiled. It would be fine if this old urchin didn't go out. Once he did, he would definitely cause a huge wave. After all, this was one of the ancestors of the dragon clan. At this time, a black-clothed young man appeared at the foot of the divine mountain where Gu Fei was. Damn, the boss really knows how to find a place like this. He Tian was a formation grandmaster. He could tell at a glance that this divine mountain was not simple. At the foot of the divine mountain, there was a spirit cave, which the divine mountain was suppressing. The divine mountain received nourishment from the spirit cave day and night. It was probably not far from becoming sentient. If nothing unforeseen happened, this divine mountain would very likely develop intelligence. At that time, there would be a mountain god born naturally in this chaotic world. An innate god. Just thinking about it made He Tian excited. It must be known that as long as it was an innate creature, it would be incomparably powerful. It was not something that ordinary Hotian creatures could compare with. He Tian didn't hesitate and directly walked up the divine mountain. He could already tell that Gu Fei had done something to this divine mountain. If someone who didn't know what was going on went up the divine mountain, they would definitely be mercilessly attacked. Not long after He Tian went up the divine mountain, a figure appeared at the foot of the divine mountain. So it's here. Gu Fei, let's see how you can escape this time. This person was wearing a black cloak. He was like a ghost in the darkness, appearing and disappearing without a sound. Chapter 22:39. What's going on? On the peak of the mountain, Gu Fei, who was sitting on a boulder with his legs crossed, suddenly frowned. In the past few days, there seemed to be a lot of experts around the mountain. Since He Tian came to the mountain, there had been more and more experts around the mountain. Just now, Gu Fei sensed a strand of divine aura, which was not a good thing. It seemed that someone was targeting him. Gu Fei did not make any reaction. He just sat there and waited to see what those people wanted to do. Since even a sage-level expert had appeared, they would take action soon. The chaotic divine soil connected the 3 realms and the 6 paths. The entrance to the chaotic world appeared in the ancestral land of the human tribe. Even the human tribe of the heaven realm could come in. Sure enough, after a while, A shocking pressure appeared 1,000 miles away from the God Mountain. A divine ape stood on top of a mountain and looked toward the God Mountain. Great divine ape of desolation? Gu Fei's heart skipped a beat when he sensed the powerful sacred rank aura. He did not expect the first sacred rank expert to appear would be this ferocious ape. The great divine ape of desolation was an ancient divine ape in the third test of the ancient road of the human tribe. It had fought against Gu Fei before. After entering the chaotic world, it had recovered its cultivation. "It's you, little monkey?" On the peak of the mountain, Gu Fei stood against the wind and said calmly, "Humph! How long has it been since we last met? How did you become so condescending so quickly?" The desolate divine ape spoke in the human language. 2 rays of cold light shot out from its eyes as it looked at Gu Fei, who was at the peak of the sacred mountain. "Kill." The great desolate divine ape was very direct. It roared furiously, and a terrifying sound wave spread out. Ripples that could be seen by the naked eye spread out. Countless boulders bounced up from the mountain peak. The divine ape extended his right hand, and a bronze rod appeared in his hand. Then, the divine ape took a step forward and traversed thousands of miles in an instant, arriving above the sacred mountain. He raised the bronze rod and smashed it down on Gu Fei's head. "Why do monkeys like to use sticks?" Gu Fei mumbled to himself. The bronze rod in the great, desolate, godly ape's hand was extraordinary. A saint-ranked power erupted from the bronze rod. It was a saint-ranked weapon. Rumble. The bronze rod smashed down, causing the entire world to shake. The power of the saint level was vast and mighty, shaking heaven and earth. In the sky above the divine mountain, a pitch-black spatial crack appeared. At this time, everyone on the divine mountain was alarmed. "It's the Emperor of Beasts from the third test of the human race." Gu Zhong and the rest rushed out from their cultivation grounds. When they saw the monkey in the sky, their expressions couldn't help but turn grim. The monkey was sealed and was no match for their master. However, in this chaos world, saints were no longer bound by anything. They had nothing to worry about, and they could recover their peerless cultivation bases. No one knew how powerful the great desolate divine ape would be after it fully recovered its sage-level cultivation. After all, Gu Fei was just a new sage. This ferocious ape is not simple. It should have the bloodline of the primordial godly ape. In He Tian's eyes, yin and yang Dao patterns were intertwining. He could see things that others couldn't. "Go to hell." The great desolate divine ape roared in anger. The bronze rod smashed down, shattering the void. Even the chaos world, which was extremely stable, couldn't withstand such power. However, Gu Fei, who was standing on the peak of the divine mountain, didn't panic at all. His face was still calm. When the black rod smashed down, he just stretched out his right hand and blocked the incoming bronze rod. Bang! The bronze rod fiercely smashed onto Gu Fei's fist. The powerful force was blocked by Gu Fei's fist. Gu Fei stood still and blocked the strike of the great desolate divine ape with one hand. What? The great desolate divine ape was taken aback. He had never expected his opponent to use a single fist to block his all-out attack. One should know that the great desolate divine ape was the descendant of the Tongbi divine ape, one of the 4 divine apes of the ancient era. Its ancestors' bloodline flowed in its body. The Tongbi divine ape, which had reached the great success realm, could grab the sun and the moon and shrink 1,000 mountains. The strength of its arms was unbelievably strong. Even an ordinary sacred beast's arm strength couldn't compare to the Tongbi divine ape. If the great desolate divine ape's rod smashed down, even an ancient sacred mountain would be smashed into pieces. However, it was blocked by a single hand of Gu Fei's. The strength of a single hand of his had reached such a shocking level. Although the great desolate divine ape was unwilling to accept it, it had to accept the reality. Roar! Gu Fei roared in anger. An even more powerful force exploded from the fist that he used to block the bronze rod, causing the rod to fly away. The great desolate divine ape was shocked again. His opponent's physical body was too strong. It was hard to imagine that there was such a strong human in this world. He could even be compared to the inborn pure-blooded beasts. The beasts that were born from chaos were inborn beasts. These beasts were born with great strength, and their bodies were extremely strong. The ancestor of the great desolate divine ape was such an existence. Although it was shocked by the strength of Gu Fei's physical body, the great desolate divine ape didn't panic. He quickly retreated and tried to increase the distance between him and Gu Fei. However, at this moment, it was no longer up to him. Gu Fei moved like a shadow and attacked the great desolate divine ape. 9 primordial chaos Tao patterns rushed out from his hand and headed towards the great desolate divine ape. How is this possible? Didn't he just pass the sage tribulation? How could he be so strong? The great desolate divine ape was shocked. Gu Fei was too strong. At this moment, it realized that it had made a fatal mistake. It thought that Gu Fei had just become a sage, and it would be easy for it to kill him. However, in fact, the great desolate divine ape had severely underestimated Gu Fei. At this moment, many experts appeared from afar. They were all watching, and among them, there were even enemies of Gu Fei. All of them were watching the battle in the sky nervously. The great desolate divine ape was forced to retreat, and it didn't dare to fight against Gu Fei head-on. Heaven-covering palm, Gu Fei shouted. The 9 primordial chaos Tao patterns interweaved into a giant hand and slapped towards the retreating great desolate divine ape. The giant hand shrouded the entire heaven and earth and filled every inch of the void. It sealed all of the great desolate divine ape's escape routes and forced the great desolate divine ape to fight against Gu Fei head-on. Let's fight. Who's afraid of you? The great desolate divine ape roared and drove the bronze staff in its hand with all its might. Ancient Tao patterns appeared on the bronze staff and interweaved into countless immortal divine patterns. Roar. Chapter 2240. Rumble. The chaotic palm pressed down from the sky. Chaotic chi surged in all directions. 9 chaotic Tao runes appeared in the palm of the palm, drawing the power of this chaotic world. Streams of chaos Tao laws rushed out of the huge hand, stabilizing the void and suppressing a part of the world. The void below the huge hand was constantly annihilated. Even the stable primal chaos world was pierced through at this moment without any suspense. Roar. The great desolate divine ape roared furiously. The bronze staff in his hand shone with dazzling divine light. His body was also emitting the sound of wind and thunder. His blood was surging. 9 primordial Tao runes finally appeared on the bronze staff. Just like the 9 divine suns embedded on the staff, it radiated endless divine light. What a powerful monkey. It's the descendant of one of the 4 ancient divine apes, the Tongbi divine ape, someone said. An extremely powerful aura was emitted from the great desolate divine ape's body. A huge silhouette appeared on his body. Roar. A furious roar seemed to be heard in everyone's ears. The silhouette of the divine ape was even taller than a mountain. It displayed an extremely ferocious aura, as if it would materialize in the void at any time. It's indeed the descendant of the Tongbi divine ape, an ancient sage exclaimed. The 4 ancient divine apes were extremely powerful existences. They could compete with immortal venerables. Killing ordinary sages was as easy as flipping one's hand. Boom. While everyone was still in shock, the divine ape had already smashed his rod against the huge chaotic hand that was descending from the sky, causing a loud explosion. The entire world shook violently, as if the entire primal chaos world was about to be overturned. Terrifying waves swept out in all directions. Pitch-black cracks appeared in the void, extending for God knows how many miles. The aura of the divine Tao burst out. Other than the powerful sages, all living beings felt their souls shaking and had to retreat further away. On the divine mountain, a shadow of an ancient cauldron rushed out and enveloped the entire divine mountain. An extremely powerful force isolated the aura of the divine Tao runes from the sky. "What's that?" someone exclaimed. "Why do I feel the aura of an extreme saint artifact?" Some of the ancient sages were bewildered. The massive ancient cauldron covered the entire celestial mountain, and even though it was only an illusory image, the inscriptions on it were extremely clear. Rumble. The mighty saint-level power was completely repelled by the cauldron. The cauldron's shadow was as still as a mountain, and it actually didn't produce any fluctuations. Even the power of a saint rank can't shake a phantom. How is this possible? Could this ancient cauldron be the legendary item? An ancient sage muttered. At this time, Gu Fei could no longer endure it. He was no longer worried that others would find out that the cauldron of mountain and river was in his hands, which would bring him great trouble. He had already become a saint, and there was nothing to worry about. Boom! At this moment, the primal chaos gigantic palm vibrated, suppressing the great desolate divine ape down from the sky. It was incomparably domineering. No matter how ferocious the great desolate divine ape was, it had no choice but to lower its head at this moment. Roar! The great desolate celestial ape roared angrily as his body emitted a dazzling purple light. He struggled with all his might, and the illusory image of the great desolate celestial ape gradually became clearer. The bloodline power of the great desolate celestial ape was completely awakened within the great desolate celestial ape's body. However, the chaotic palm was like the hand of God, and it possessed unimaginable might. Bang! The earth shook, and the chaotic palm slapped the great desolate celestial ape down from the sky, and it was smashed deep into the ground. Rumble! The earth shook, and under the impact of the powerful force, the earth was moving up and down like waves, and many bottomless cracks could be seen. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. The great desolate celestial ape was actually not Gu Fei's opponent. Didn't Gu Fei just become a saint not long ago? He had just become a saint not long ago, and he already had such combat strength and could even fight against an ancient sage. This was truly unbelievable. Roar! From deep underground, the great desolate celestial ape's roar could be heard. He was in big trouble, and his opponent was actually much stronger than him. Could this person really be that person's descendant? One should know that the great desolate celestial ape had the bloodline of the long by celestial ape, and the strength of the long by celestial ape's arms was definitely something that other innate divine beasts could not compare to. In the ancient desolate celestial ape, there was once an advanced level long by celestial ape. This advanced level long by celestial ape had a pair of arms that could tear apart dragons and elephants. Even some of the divine beasts that were on par with the long by celestial ape had to be wary of his arms. Are you convinced? A voice came down from the sky, and a silhouette descended from the sky. He was like a peerless chaotic god of war, and his entire body was radiating with chaotic light. 9 primordial chaotic Tao patterns were faintly visible on his body. It's really him. Someone recognized Gu Fei. After disappearing for so long, he has finally reappeared. Someone retreated at the first moment and spread the news. To the cultivators of the soaring dragon ancestral star, the name Gu Fei was not unfamiliar. The news of Gu Fei's appearance in the chaotic world had made some of the superpowers of the soaring dragon ancestral star feel extremely uneasy. Outrageous. Why is he not dead yet, and has even become a saint? On the soaring dragon ancestral star, deep in the mountains of the eastern region, a roar of dissatisfaction could be heard from a place of rising dragon. That person had actually become a saint, and this was definitely a huge problem for their bloodline. The people in the chaotic world could communicate with the outside world, and soon, the other superpowers of the soaring dragon ancestral star also knew that Gu Fei had become a saint. Looks like no one in the current generation is a match for him. An expert who rose to power in the same generation as Gu Fei sighed. He had already become a saint, and had left all the other geniuses of the same generation behind him. Some were unwilling, and some could already smell the stench of blood. Once Gu Fei returned to the soaring dragon ancestral star, those people back then would most likely be in big trouble. Many people felt uneasy. Once Gu Fei returned, he would definitely settle everything. By then, there would be more deaths on the soaring dragon ancestral star. Looks like we need to make some preparations. An old voice came from the Dongfang family's ancestral ground. That person has become a saint. An old monk opened his eyes on the peak of the spirited mountain in West Earth's Buddhist world. At this time, in the chaotic divine soil, Gu Fei was suppressing the great desolate celestial ape with great power. He wanted to use this battle to show all the ancient saints who were planning to attack him that he, Gu Fei, was not afraid of them. This was the most direct way to display one's strength and also the best effect. Some ancient sages originally wanted to deal with Gu Fei, but at this time, they hesitated. Are you convinced? Chapter 22:41. Roar. Below the ground, the great deity ape roared and roared. Purple Tao patterns circled around its body as it tried to break free from the chaotic giant hand. However, no matter how much the great deity ape struggled, it couldn't break free and was suppressed by the chaotic giant hand. Still not convinced? Gu Fei yelled. He was extremely powerful, and the chaotic giant hand was extremely powerful. The chaotic giant hand seemed to be able to crush the entire heaven and earth. The ripple of energy that was emitted from it made even the ancient saint's heart palpitate. There were strong and weak sages too. Generally speaking, the ancient saints who became sages during the ancient times were much stronger than the ordinary sages. However, the current Gu Fei was able to suppress the ancient saints. Perhaps only the sage rulers among the sages could fight against Gu Fei. Sage rulers, the king of sages. They were far stronger than the ordinary sages. Even in the ancient times, they were the overlords of a region. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced even if I die. The great deity ape roared. As the descendant of one of the 4 great deity apes, the bloodline of its ancestor flowed in its body. How could it be willing to submit to a human? One should know that in the ancient times, the human race was merely food for the strong races. To the experts of the strong races, the human race was no different from an ant. Even though the human race was the strongest in the human world, in the eyes of the great deity ape, a sacred beast like it was still high above. It was the strongest existence that could control the life and death of countless living beings. Since that's the case, you shall die. Gu Fei didn't bother to say anything else. The chaotic giant hand that was suppressing the great deity ape's body emitted an even stronger force. Buzz. 9 chaotic Tao patterns were emitted from the chaotic giant hand. The Tao patterns sealed the surroundings and cut off the great deity ape's escape route. Then, the 9 primordial Tao patterns began to emit destructive energy, wanting to destroy the great deity ape completely. This was the only way to kill a powerful Saint Realm being. It was to completely suppress it, and then use overwhelming force to obliterate its body and soul. The great desolate divine ape howled under the chaos palm. He could feel that the other party truly had the strength to kill him. His life was in danger. The great desolate celestial ape couldn't just sit there and wait for death. At this moment, the great desolate celestial ape threw caution to the wind. 9 purple divine marks emerged from the space between its eyebrows. A powerful aura was emitted from the 9 divine marks. The power of inheritance? Gu Fei was muttering to himself. The great desolate divine ape was really forced into a corner. It had no choice but to burn the bloodline power that it inherited from its ancestors. 9 purple Tao patterns interweaved, and a purple divine ape appeared under the giant chaotic hand. Roar. The purple divine ape, which was formed by the Tao pattern, roared into the sky. A violent aura that seemed to have come from ancient times erupted from the divine ape. Rumble. The purple godly ape displayed its peerless strength. It actually used its arms to resist the giant chaotic hand that was pressing down on it. It was extremely domineering. Good heavens! Gu Fei's heart couldn't help but tremble when he saw this scene. The bloodline power of those supreme divine beasts was actually so powerful that it truly surprised him. The descendants of the supreme divine beasts were indeed blessed by the heavens. The great desolate divine ape stood up. Purple divine light radiated from its body. The 9 primordial Tao patterns started to fuse with the divine ape in front of it. Rumble. The heaven and earth shook. Purple light shot up to the sky. Even Gu Fei's chaotic sky covering hand couldn't suppress it. The giant hand was pushed away by the explosive power. Roar. The great desolate divine ape let out an unwilling roar. It then pounced towards the purple divine ape that was formed by the bloodline power. The 2 divine apes fused together. An even more powerful force spread out. It was as though the ancient divine ape had descended. It was extremely terrifying. This Some of the ancient sages who were watching the battle from afar were extremely shocked. They could already tell that the great, desolate divine ape was burning its life force. After this battle, even if the divine ape could survive, the bloodline power in its body would dissipate completely. It would be left with an incurable disease. "What a ferocious fella!" someone exclaimed. The great desolate divine ape would rather die than submit. It didn't hesitate to use a secret skill. Even if its vitality was greatly damaged, it didn't hesitate. This made everyone's heart skip a beat. None of the 4 ancient divine apes were easy to deal with. Even the descendants of the 4 ancient divine apes were the same, especially the Tongbi divine ape. Its temperament was like fire. It was the hardest to tame. Very good. Seeing that the great desolate divine ape's combat strength had increased to a level that made even his heart palpitate, Gu Fei's blood for battle was finally ignited. "Come on, let's fight." Gu Fei shouted and strode forward. Chaotic energy surged around his body. 9 primordial Tao patterns appeared in the void behind him, triggering the chaotic energy between heaven and earth. Boom. At this moment, the chaotic sky covering hand collapsed. The great desolate divine ape rushed out from the ground. The ground was sinking and collapsing. The purple energy spread out for hundreds of thousands of miles. The killing intent caused the surrounding temperature to drop rapidly. "Damned human race. I'm going to devour you alive." The great desolate divine ape howled. Its eyes had already turned bloodshot. It was in a strange state right now. It seemed as though it was about to descend into insanity. However, it still retained its consciousness. This was a violent and clear-headed ape. It was strong and terrifying. Pong. Gu Fei didn't say anything. The first thing he did was to send a punch towards the great desolate divine ape's face. It was simple and direct, as though it was a casual punch. However, this punch of Gu Fei's was different in the eyes of those ancient sages. This punch of Gu Fei's caused the entire void behind him to tremble. An invincible fist intent spread out from Gu Fei's fist. The great desolate divine ape could only feel a fist getting bigger and bigger in front of its eyes. It had a feeling that it couldn't dodge at all, and could only face it head-on. Preposterous. The great desolate divine ape's eyes shot out 2 beams of lightning. Both of its arms shook and punched towards Gu Fei's incoming fist. Its entire right arm let out a sonic boom as it expanded to 3 times its original size. The muscles on it bulged, giving off an extremely powerful vibe. Boom. The 2 fists clashed against each other, causing the entire world to shake. Then, a ball of black light spread out from the point where the 2 fists clashed. That was the shattering of the void. Both of them retreated backwards. Bzzz. The space between the 2 of them let out a buzzing sound before turning into a pitch-black void. The world of chaos was pierced through. So strong. At this moment, on the God Mountain, He Tian, Gu Zhong and the others were completely dumbfounded by the scene before them. If not for the protection of the cauldron of mountain and river, the entire God Mountain would have been smashed into dust by now. Chapter 2242. The power of inheritance is indeed not to be underestimated. On top of the sacred mountain, He Tian's eyes were intertwined with yin and yang Dao patterns as he spoke. How did this ferocious ape become so strong all of a sudden? Gu Zhong said. Could this be the power of inheritance contained within the bloodline? Iron Blood Taoist said. His expression was incomparably solemn, as if he had thought of something. He looked at the ferocious ape outside the sacred mountain with a slight change in his expression. Boom. Bang. An incomparably shocking collision sound came from high up in the sky. The great desolate divine ape was desperately burning its bloodline power to draw out the power of inheritance contained within its bloodline. This was simply like the descent of the real long-armed divine ape. It was extremely powerful. With a light shake of its arms, it could shatter a piece of the void. Only Gu Fei's chaotic martial body could withstand this kind of power as he continuously clashed with the great desolate divine ape, causing the chaotic heaven and earth to shatter. Human race, die. The great desolate divine ape's entire body was filled with purple chi, as if it was burning with purple divine fire. Powerful energy ripples spread in all directions, causing the entire heaven and earth to tremble under its might. Rumble, the great desolate divine ape, directly waved its arms and smashed towards Gu Fei's head. The powerful energy shook the heavens and the earth, causing the void to crack and form pitch-black spatial cracks. Kill. Gu Fei's battle blood was boiling. He immediately struck out a primal fist towards the great desolate divine ape's arms. 9 primal chaotic Tao patterns appeared on his fist. The primal fist broke through the layers of purple chi and collided with the great desolate divine ape's arms, blocking the great desolate divine ape's earth-shattering attack. 3 pure ones. When Gu Fei blocked the great desolate divine ape, a green chi rushed out from the top of his head and turned into 3 incomparably powerful figures that attacked the great desolate divine ape. Yin Yang Sword. One of the 3 Taoist bodies displayed the killing method that Gu Fei had created when he had the Yin Yang martial body. 2 beams of sword light, one black and one white, darted out of his hands and slashed toward the great desolate divine ape. The other Tao body emitted the 5 elements divine light. He waved his hands in front of him, and a 5 elements wheel appeared high up in the sky. It emitted a peerless and powerful 5 elements power and suppressed the great desolate divine ape. The last Taoist body didn't emit any powerful waves, but it waved its hand and used the sky-covering hand to slap the great desolate divine ape. The gigantic hand covered the sky, enveloping the entire sky. A destructive power descended from the gigantic hand, displaying a terrifying might that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Roar. The great desolate divine ape roared furiously. His head shook and a ball of purple light burst out from his body. He actually turned into a 3-headed, 6-armed creature. An extremely violent power burst out. Swish. Holding the bronze staff in his hands, he swung it towards the Yin Yang Dao sword that was slashing towards him. The head that was facing Gu Fei's 5 elements Taoist body opened its mouth and emitted a purple divine fire, which burned toward the 5 elements wheel. At the same time, its arms reached up to the sky to resist the sky-covering hand of Gu Fei's other Taoist body. Rumble. This was a huge collision. The supreme power of the sage level engulfed the entire world where Gu Fei and the great desolate divine ape were and turned it into chaos. At this moment, no one could see what was going on inside, not even the ancient sages. This was because the Tao laws of Gu Fei and the Tao laws of the great desolate divine ape were colliding, blocking all peeping. How did Gu Fei become so strong? A man and a woman were standing in the distant sky. Young master, we're ready. At this moment, an old servant in cyan clothes appeared behind the man and the woman and said softly, "Ninth uncle is here." The young man said without turning around, "Yes, ancestor is here to protect young master." The old servant in cyan clothes said, "Very good. Gu Fei, don't die in the hands of this ferocious ape. I, Ziyun Xiao, will not be satisfied if I don't fight with you again." The young man's eyes flickered and a faintly discernible fighting spirit appeared on his body. Then, he turned around and left with the old servant in cyan clothes. "Ziyun Xiao, I'll wait for you." Just as Ziyun Xiao's figure was about to disappear into the horizon, a voice suddenly sounded in Ziyun Xiao's heart, which shocked the defenseless Ziyun Xiao. "Gu Fei." Ziyun Xiao turned around and took a deep look at the place where Gu Fei was. Then, he suddenly turned around and left. Gu Fei, this guy. Ziyun did not leave with Ziyun Xiao because she knew that the place Ziyun Xiao wanted to go to was not a place she could go. This was because Ziyun Xiao wanted to try and break through to the saint level. Ziyun Xiao had the supreme Ziyun bloodline in his body. As long as he became a saint, the supreme bloodline in his body would truly awaken. This was Ziyun Xiao's trump card. It was precisely because Ziyun Xiao had this confidence that he dared to challenge Gu Fei after becoming a saint. At this moment, the battle between Gu Fei and the great desolate divine ape had entered the primal chaos. The 2 experts were fighting intensely, and the battle had already reached its climax. Puff. Yin Yang sword light pierced through the void, directly piercing through the great desolate celestial ape's chest, leaving a bloody hole that went from front to back. Gu Fei displayed the 3 pure ones and fought against the great desolate divine ape with 3 heads and 6 arms. In the end, he still had the upper hand. When Gu Fei's yin-yang Taoist body used the yin-yang sword qi to pierce through the great desolate divine ape's chest, the great desolate divine ape swung the long stick in its hand and smashed it on the waist of the yin-yang Taoist body, causing it to turn into a green mist. Bang! At the moment when the great desolate divine ape destroyed Gu Fei's yin-yang Taoist body, Gu Fei's other Taoist body had already smashed one of its heads with its palm. One of the great desolate divine ape's heads immediately exploded and turned into a bloody mist that dissipated in the void. The fierce battle continued. Gu Fei's real body was extremely ferocious and directly tore off one of the great desolate divine ape's arms. The price that Gu Fei had to pay was that the 5 elements Taoist body, one of his 3 Taoist bodies, was beaten by the great desolate divine ape and turned into a green mist that flew back into his body. So what if you use the power of inheritance? You are still no match for me, Gu Fei said loudly. He was incomparably powerful. His real body and the last Taoist body seemed to be equally powerful. Every move he made displayed a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. The great desolate divine ape, which had been severely injured in succession, could no longer fight against Gu Fei. Bang! Boom! The great desolate divine ape was hit consecutively. Its body was almost destroyed and it spat out a huge mouthful of blood. Shua. Chapter 22:43. The chaotic martial body was extremely strong. Gu Fei was suppressing the great desolate celestial ape, causing the great desolate celestial ape to vomit blood and retreat. The great desolate celestial ape's physical body was severely injured. Swish! Gu Fei's real body used the 8 desolation steps and instantly appeared in front of the great desolate celestial ape. He pointed at the great desolate celestial ape's forehead, and a ball of chaotic divine light appeared at the tip of his finger. The 8 desolation steps was too fast. It was so fast that the great desolate celestial ape didn't even think about dodging. Gu Fei's finger was already at the great desolate celestial ape's forehead. Blood appeared, and the great desolate celestial ape's forehead was pierced by the chaotic divine light. Its 3-headed, 6-arm technique disappeared immediately, and it was sent flying. Roar! The great desolate celestial ape roared. He felt a destructive power of the great Tao destroying his life force. With his forehead as the starting point, his physical body was collapsing. How is this possible? The great desolate celestial ape was scared out of his wits. At this moment, he knew that his opponent really had the ability to kill him. The chaotic power spread out, and his physical body was collapsing continuously. Then, it turned into dust and disappeared from the world. The breath of death shrouded his heart. The great desolate celestial ape wanted to abandon his physical body. His spiritual soul turned into a ball of purple light and rushed out from his body. Buzz! At this moment, the chaotic space suddenly shook violently. 9 chaos Tao patterns activated endless chaotic power and sealed the space around the great desolate celestial ape. 9 chaos Tao patterns pressed towards the great desolate celestial ape's spiritual soul. In this chaotic space, the power of the 9 chaos Tao patterns had increased to a level that even Gu Fei was surprised. Gu Fei's chaotic martial body was close to the chaotic qi. The primordial Tao patterns resonated with the chaotic power and displayed great power. 9 chaos Tao patterns rushed out and imprinted on the great desolate celestial ape's spiritual soul. They fixed the great desolate celestial ape's spiritual soul in the air. What are you trying to do? The divine soul of the great barren god ape emitted an angry spirit wave. Within the purple light, a small monkey was glaring at Gu Fei, who was approaching him. At this moment, the body of the great desolate divine ape and the bronze rod had been put away by Gu Fei. It was impossible for the soul of the great desolate divine ape to self-destruct. The 9 primal seals completely suppressed the great desolate god ape's divine soul. Gu Fei didn't say anything. A purple vertical mark appeared between his eyebrows. It was as if a purple divine eye had appeared there, emitting rays of purple light. The legendary 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, Yu, the divine soul of the great desolate divine ape, seemed to know what Gu Fei was going to do. as its spiritual will fluctuated violently. Shua. At this moment, a ray of divine light rushed out from between Gu Fei's eyebrows. It turned into a purple shadow and pounced into the great desolate divine ape's spiritual soul, merging into the depths of the great desolate divine ape's spiritual soul. This ferocious ape was a descendant of the Tongbi divine ape, one of the 4 divine apes of ancient times. Even though its bloodline was no longer pure, the abilities it had inherited from the Tongbi divine ape were genuine abilities of the Tongbi divine ape. The 3 heads and 6 arms technique was one of them. Anyone would covet the skills of the ancient Tongbi divine ape. Naturally, Gu Fei didn't want to let it go. He used one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the God Snatch secret technique, to read the memories of the great desolate divine ape's spiritual soul. The eyes of the purple divine ape shadow that was enveloped by the purple divine light became dull. The divine sound of the great path resonated, and everything that the great desolate divine ape experienced appeared in front of Gu Fei. 3 heads and 6 arms technique, star picking hand, mountain shrinking footwork. Gu Fei smiled. There was indeed something good in the depths of the great desolate divine ape's spiritual soul. But why did this fearsome ape only know the 3 heads and 6 arms technique? Could it be that this fearsome ape didn't know the other 3 skills? Gu Fei could not understand why the great wilderness celestial ape could only master one great technique. However, Gu Fei soon found out the reason behind it. It turned out that the Tongbi divine ape's inheritance was sealed deep within the great wilderness celestial ape soul. With the great wilderness celestial ape's cultivation base and realm, it was unable to unlock the seal deep within its soul. But Gu Fei's God Snatch secret technique had immeasurable power. It completely ignored the seal on the great desolate divine ape's soul and read the 2 skills. In the end, Gu Fei's spiritual will retreated from the great desolate divine ape's spiritual soul. The great desolate divine ape's spiritual soul dimmed and almost disappeared. Bang! With a thought from Gu Fei, the 9 primordial seals on the great desolate divine ape's spiritual soul immediately exploded, destroying the fearsome ape's spiritual soul. The Tongbi divine ape only knows 3 supreme skills. Gu Fei tried to use the 3 heads and 6 arms technique. Buzz! The space around Gu Fei trembled. His body emitted a primordial divine light. With a sway of his body, he turned into the 3 heads and 6 arms technique. Gu Fei was surprised. He didn't think that he would succeed on the first try. The 3 heads had independent thoughts. The strength of the other 4 arms was no different from the original 2 arms. The chaos martial body had such divinity. It could display the skills of other supreme races. This wasn't an imitation, but a real skill. The 3 heads and 6 arms technique was the supreme skill of the ancient Tongbi divine ape. With this skill, the Tongbi divine ape could definitely challenge an immortal Venerable and kill a great saint. Haha. Gu Fei was surprised and happy at the same time. If he used this skill to fight with others, who would dare to fight with him in close combat? Pluck the stars and grab the moon. Gu Fei retracted the 3 heads and 6 arms technique and tried to use another great skill. Powerful primordial energy crazily gathered towards his right hand. Boom! Gu Fei's right hand grabbed forward, and a powerful force broke through the layers of primal chaos chi. A part of the primal chaos void in front of him was directly ripped apart, and a part of the primal chaos void was pulled away. Gu Fei was incomparably shocked. The primordial chi was ripped apart. Such power was definitely not weaker than the heaven-covering palm. The Tongbi divine ape's great skill was indeed powerful. This shrinking mountains technique shouldn't be any weaker than the 8 desolation steps, Gu Fei muttered to himself. At this moment, he had already retracted his Tao body. He stood in the middle of the primordial chi. 9 primordial Tao runes appeared around him, stabilizing the space around him. The primordial chi was extremely chaotic. The primordial chi could tear apart everything. Even supreme experts wouldn't dare to enter the primordial chi. This battle has ended. Who won and who lost? At this moment, in the chaotic world, above the divine mountain, the primordial chi from the primordial chi hole had stopped. The battle between Gu Fei and the great desolation divine ape should have ended. Everyone was extremely nervous. They wanted to know who would be able to walk out from the primordial chi hole. Master. Chapter 22:44. While everyone was waiting nervously, a figure walked out from the hole. It's him. How is this possible? He actually won. Someone couldn't help but exclaim after seeing the newcomer. Before this, no one thought highly of this person since his opponent was an Empyrean saint. It's Master, haha. When Gu Zhong saw the person who came out of the primal chaos hole in the sky, he was so excited that he became somewhat incoherent. His master had won and killed an ancient saint. Gu Fei. A few Empyrean saints quietly retreated in the sky. This is really unexpected. Some Empyrean saints misjudged the situation. The great desolate divine ape was too useless. It couldn't even defeat a new Empyrean saint. It was truly a disgrace to its name. The great desolate divine ape refused to submit and died in the end. The entire chaotic land was shaken by this news. At this moment, a divine island was floating in the boundless chaotic aura above the chaotic divine soil. Outrageous, Gu Fei actually killed the great desolate divine ape. A roar came from the divine island. On top of a pavilion, a white-haired old man smashed his wine cup to pieces. Uncle Master, you're about to enter the secret chamber. Please don't be so excited. Opposite the old man was a young man in Taoist robes. He was different from the others and actually carried an aura of vicissitudes. Only those who had lived for countless years and experienced many things would have such an aura. It actually appeared on this young man. Xin Tong, after I enter the secret chamber, immediately go kill that brat Gu Fei. The old man's snow-white beard trembled. Yes, Uncle Master. The young man nodded. He then raised the white jade cup in his hand and drained the immortal brew in one gulp. His face revealed an expression of enjoyment. Uncle Master, your jade dew immortal brew is indeed worthy of being called the #1 immortal brew in the southern divine ocean, Xin Tong said. You really like it? Lu Xianwang suddenly turned around and looked at Xin Tong. Yes, I do like it, but I can't drink it all the time. Xin Tong nodded and said. Although this martial uncle's cultivation was not very good, he had a lot of good things, which made this martial nephew very envious. Haha, what's so difficult about that? As long as you bring that Gu Fei's head to me, I'll give you all the immortal wine I've collected here. Lu Xianwang laughed heartily. Very well. In that case, I'll go meet this Gu Fei and see if he really has 3 heads and 6 arms. To think that he would be able to kill an ancient sage. Xin Tong stood up as he spoke. After that, Earth Immortal Elder entered the secret chamber and began his breakthrough. The #1 disciple of the South Pole Immortal Reverend, Xin Tong, immediately left the godly island in the sky and descended to the primal chaos land, heading towards the godly mountain. Just how powerful South Pole Immortal Venerable's #1 disciple was, not many people in the present world knew. It was because those who knew were all directly killed by him, their bodies and souls extinguished. While Xin Tong was heading towards the godly mountain, a figure appeared at the foot of the mountain. At this moment, the illusion of the mountain and river cauldron had already dissipated. On the godly mountain, everyone was speeding up their cultivation because in the near future, this chaotic world might fall into chaos. Only those with great power would be able to deal with it. Halt! Just as this person was about to ascend the mountain, a figure appeared in front of him and stopped him. This person was a middle-aged man with red hair. He was tall and had a pair of bright eyes. One could faintly see a pair of small horns within his red eyes. True dragon aura. The person glanced at the red-haired man with a hint of surprise. He didn't expect to meet someone of his own kind here. You are? At this moment, the red-haired man also sensed the aura of the dragon race from this person's body. His eyes couldn't help but brighten up. I'm here to look for my big brother. The young cultivator said. What? Your big brother is on the mountain? The red-haired man was surprised. There were only so many people on the mountain. Who was this guy's big brother? Who is your big brother? Red Dragon asked. My big brother's name is Gu Fei. I heard he's on the mountain. The young cultivator answered. What? Red Dragon was shocked. This guy was actually his teacher's brother? How is this possible? He had never heard of his teacher having a dragon brother. Although he hadn't heard of this before, Red Dragon didn't dare to be negligent. He transmitted his voice to the mountain. Soon, a black-clothed young man holding a folding fan leisurely walked down from the mountain. "Old Black, long time no see." The person immediately called out when he saw the black-clothed young man. "Who dares to call you Grandpa Jia? Courting death." Hearing someone call him that, He Tian's brows immediately straightened. His eyes flickered with an ominous glint. Other than Gu Fei and that person from the heavenly realm, no one had ever dared to call him that. However, when He Tian saw the person, his eyeballs almost fell to the ground. This. He Tian looked at the person in disbelief. For a moment, he was speechless. This person knows Uncle Master He. Red Dragon was shocked when he saw his own clan member call He Tian Old Black. However, what shocked him even more was that Uncle Master He didn't flip out. "Little Xiaoqing, it's really you." He Tian's eyes widened in disbelief. Wasn't Xiaoqing in the heavenly realm? Why would he appear here? Could it be that the legendary chaotic divine soil that could connect to the 3 realms and 6 paths was true? Who else could it be if not me? You're the real deal. Xiaoqing smiled and walked over. At this moment, black and white Dao runes intertwined in He Tian's eyes. He used the yin-yang god eye to see through the other party's origin. "It's really you, kid." Erebus put away his yin-yang divine eyes and walked forward, laughing heartily. He hugged Xiaoqing for a moment, then let him go and looked him up and down. "Red Dragon greets Uncle Master." At this moment, Red Dragon recovered from his shock and bowed towards Xiaoqing. "You are my big brother's disciple." Xiaoqing was a little surprised. Red Dragon was from the dragon race, and it was hard for dragons to cultivate martial arts. The martial path battle skills created by the martial ancestor were only suitable for humans to cultivate. It was impossible for living beings of other races to cultivate the martial path battle skills, as they were not humans. Go. Quickly, follow me to see Gu Fei." Erebus grabbed Little Qing's hand and was about to walk up the mountain. Chapter 22:45. Big Brother. When Xiaoqing saw that person, his eyes couldn't help but tear up. This person was Gu Fei. Xiaoqing. Gu Fei was also very excited. The 2 brothers were finally reunited. When they left the heavenly world, Xiaoqing's cultivation was not very high. But now, he was already a great completion quasi-saint. It seemed that the decision to let Xiaoqing take Old Turtle as his master was the right one. The 2 brothers hugged each other tightly. They hadn't seen each other for a long time and had a lot to talk about. Gu Fei welcomed Xiaoqing to the top of the sacred mountain. At this time, everyone came out of their cultivation places. They had already received the news that a brother of Gu Fei had come. They didn't dare to be negligent. "Greetings, martial uncle." Among Gu Fei's disciples, the most excited one was Gu Zhong. Among Gu Fei's new disciples, only Gu Zhong had seen Xiaoqing before. Moreover, Gu Zhong had a very important matter to ask Xiaoqing. This made him restless, afraid that he would receive bad news. "Greetings, martial uncle." Gu Fei's new disciples, Yao Yu and Red Dragon, also greeted Xiaoqing. Then, the younger disciples also greeted Xiaoqing. These were the disciples of the Ming clan that Gu Zhong had accepted. The physique of the Ming clan was very suitable for cultivating martial arts. As the eldest disciple of Gu Fei, Gu Zhong naturally shouldered the heavy responsibility of promoting martial arts. Among Gu Zhong's disciples, Ming Long was the most outstanding one. His talent was also the best. Under Gu Zhong's guidance, his cultivation had been advancing by leaps and bounds. Finally, Gu Fei's subordinates came to greet Gu Zhong. In their opinion, the ominous land of their lord was not ordinary. One should know that a person who could become brothers with their lord was not an ordinary person. Xiaoqing found that the cultivation of Gu Fei's disciples was very good. As their martial uncle, he didn't seem to have anything good to give them as a greeting gift. A semi-sage or quasi-sage divine weapon was no longer of much use to Gu Fei and the other disciples. Thinking up to there, Xiaoqing waved his right hand, and 3 god artifacts appeared before him. They hovered in the air, radiating with divine light. "As a gift for you juniors," Xiaoqing said to Ming Long and the rest. Thank you, Martial Granduncle. Ming Long, Ming Hu and Ming Bao were overjoyed. These were the 3 demi-saint grade divine weapons, a halberd, a battle axe, and a spear. These 3 divine weapons were the most commonly seen divine weapons in the world of cultivation. Although it was the most common divine weapon, a perfect sage-to-be divine weapon was not very common. Ming Long got the big halberd, Fierce Tiger got the battle axe, and the divine spear fell into the hands of Ming Bao. Ming Long and the other 2 brothers retreated. Brother Xiaoqing, you sure have a lot of items. Do you have any sacred artifacts? Give me a few as well. Erebus said to Little Green with a drooling face. I also want a sacred artifact. You seem to have the aura of a sacred artifact on you. You should give me one. Xiaoqing said to He Tian with a smile. You're really stingy. He Tian said mockingly. Hee, old He, you're talking about yourself. Xiaoqing naturally knew this guy's temperament very well. This guy was ruthless. As long as it was a treasure, he would not let it go. It was absolutely impossible for others to get anything from him. Am I that stingy? I'm a generous person. He Tian said disapprovingly. Yes, yes, yes. Xiaoqing nodded with a smile. Big brother, you've finally become a saint. Should we find those people to settle the score? Xiaoqing was eager to give it a try. After all, back on the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, they had been bullied quite a bit, especially by the Dongfeng family. They had a huge grudge against the Dongfeng family. Back then, they had been too sullen. Now, they could finally breathe freely. Don't be anxious. We'll settle the score, but not now. We can't miss this opportunity. You guys cultivate well. If you can break through to the Saint Realm, then our strength will increase greatly. Gu Fei was very calm. He was no longer that impulsive youth from back then. After experiencing countless things, he had become calm and steady. He had to pay a visit to the Dongfeng family, but now really wasn't the time. Big brother is right. Master also said the same thing. Xiaoqing nodded. Old tortoise. Gu Fei couldn't help but be startled. This guy was unreliable, but at the crucial moment, he was very reliable. This guy also came to the chaotic world, right? Gu Fei muttered to himself. He was very expectant. Old Tortoise was the son of Tai Huang. Back then, when he was suppressed in the virtual sky world's absolute formation, his vitality was depleted and his cultivation level even fell below the immortal realm. Old Tortoise only lost his vitality, but his cultivation level was still there. After so many years in the heaven realm, it was hard to imagine to what extent his cultivation level had recovered. Moreover, Old Tortoise also had the Tai Huang seal. It was a supreme demon weapon refined by Tai Huang. With it, no one dared to provoke Old Tortoise. Moreover, the power of the demon race in the heaven realm was still very large. Martial uncle. At this time, Gu Zhong wanted to say something but stopped. Martial nephew, do you have something to say? Xiaoqing asked with a smile. Martial uncle, I want to know about my boy. What Gu Zhong wanted to know the most was news about his little boy, Gu Xiaofeng. Back then, Gu Xiaofeng followed Gu Fei into the immortal realm and lost contact with him. The saintess of Yaodai Holy Land was taken back to the Holy Land by the people of Yaodai Holy Land. After that, there was no news of her. Gu Zhong could be said to be separated from his family. Haha, I knew you couldn't hold it in. Xiaoqing said with a smile. Martial uncle, my little boy. Gu Zhong was very nervous. He only had this one son. If anything happened to him, it would be terrible. That little boy. Xiaoqing hesitated for a moment. What? Gu Zhong's heart beat fiercely, and his breathing became rapid. Xiaoqing, don't tease him, Gu Fei said with a smile. Gu Zhong looked at Gu Fei and then at Xiaoqing, at a loss. All right, I won't tease you anymore. Your little boy is very good. You and your son will meet soon. Xiaoqing said. That's good. Hearing this, Gu Zhong immediately heaved a sigh of relief. His tense nerves suddenly relaxed, and he felt like he was about to collapse. That bastard. When he comes back, I will definitely beat his butt. Gu Zhong finally felt relieved after hearing the news about Gu Xiaofeng. It seemed that if there was a chance, he should go to Yaodai Holy Land. His master was already a sage. It seemed that Yaodai Ancient Holy Land would not dare to drive him away. Chapter 2246. When Gu Fei and Xiaoqing reunited, Gu Fei was overjoyed. He took out the corpse of the divine ape, took out the mountain and river cauldron, and cooked the divine ape. This was a saint-level divine ape. Although it had fought with Gu Fei, and most of its energy had been consumed, the divine essence contained in its flesh and blood was still very strong. It was best to use the mountain and river cauldron to refine the divine ape's body. Only in this way could all the divine essence contained in the divine ape's flesh and blood be refined. This was definitely a peerless divine medicine. On the peak of the divine mountain, Gu Fei activated the primordial chaos qi in the mountain and river cauldron. The primordial chaos qi turned into chaotic divine fire and completely wrapped the divine ape's corpse. Under the refinement of the chaotic divine fire, beams of divine light began to escape from the divine ape's body and merge with the water of the divine spring of life. Inside the mountain and river cauldron, water and fire were compatible. Beams of divine light rushed out of the cauldron from time to time, and divine rainbows constantly appeared on the divine mountain. This was definitely a marvelous scene. What's going on? Thousands of miles away from the divine mountain where Gu Fei resided, a youth in a Taoist robe stood on top of a stone mountain, gazing into the distant sky. Swish! A divine rainbow soared into the sky in the distance, and then disappeared in the dusky world. A powerful wave of spiritual energy spread out. What the hell are Gu Fei and his people doing? The young man was Xin Tong, the first disciple of the South Pole immortal Venerable. At this time, some people who had been paying attention to the movements on the divine mountain also noticed this strange phenomenon. They were very surprised and wanted to know what was happening on the divine mountain. However, the divine mountain where Gu Fei was no longer the same divine mountain where the golden bird used to live. After He Tian went up to the divine mountain, he set up many killing arrays. As a formation grandmaster, He Tian's killing arrays were very terrifying. Even if a sage came in person, he would not be able to sneak up the mountain without triggering the killing arrays. Several hours later, the divine essence of the divine ape in the mountain and river cauldron was completely refined and integrated into the divine spring of life. Inside the mountain and river cauldron, the originally colorless and odorless spring water had now turned purple. This was a cauldron full of purple godly medicines. After my cultivation broke through to the saint level, it became easier to refine the flesh of these saint-level beasts. Gu Fei muttered to himself. In just a few hours, he had refined a cauldron of peerless divine medicine. Before he became a saint, this was simply unimaginable. Big brother, this? Xiaoqing couldn't help but be shocked when he saw this scene. Using the flesh and blood of a saint-level divine beast to refine a divine medicine was too extravagant. Even the old tortoise, the son of the Grand Emperor, who had mastered the ultimate demon weapon Grand Emperor seal, had never used the flesh and blood of a saint-level divine beast to refine a divine medicine. The divine medicine refined from the flesh and blood of a saint-level divine beast was extraordinary. In the purple light shining from the mouth of the ancient cauldron, one could vaguely see the shadow of a divine ape. Xiaoqing, Taishui, and He Tian, the three of you are only half a step away from breaking through the shackles of cultivation and becoming saint-level experts. After you eat the divine medicine in the cauldron, go and do closed-door training. Gu Fei looked at Xiaoqing and said, "Thank you, big brother." "Thank you, Lord." "Gu Fei, my good brother, come, give me a hug." Among the three of them, only He Tian was still smiling. He actually walked up to Gu Fei and wanted to hug him. "Don't." Gu Fei quickly dodged. It was not a good thing to hug this guy. This guy was the ancestor of dirty tricks. If he hugged him, his things would definitely be taken away by this guy. "I won't hug you if you don't want to," He Tian said, feeling good about himself. "You guys can start." Gu Fei said. He wanted to improve the cultivation and combat power of his people as much as possible. He had a premonition that this chaotic divine land was going to fall into chaos. In the midst of chaos, only the strong could protect themselves and survive. Xiaoqing and the other two did not say anything else. They directly walked up, took out the divine medicine in the cauldron, and drank a big bowl each. Then, powerful waves immediately spread out from their bodies. Purple qi swirled around them, and the medicinal power of the divine medicine was exploding. The three of them quickly left and went into closed-door training. If Shaoqing and the others could successfully break through, Gu Fei's strength would increase greatly. At that time, when they returned to the ancestral Dragon Star, even those super forces with a long history would be wary of them. Next, Red Dragon and Yao Yu, the two disciples of Gu Fei, also took the divine medicine in the cauldron. Then, they bid farewell to Gu Fei and left the peak of the divine mountain to find a place for closed-door training. Zhong Liming also took the divine medicine and left. The 12 bandits and the outstanding disciples of the Ming clan had all come. The divine medicine in the cauldron was quickly finished. On the divine mountain, everyone was cultivating, refining the divine essence contained in the divine medicine to strengthen themselves. Only Gu Fei continued to sit cross-legged on the peak of the divine mountain, guarding it. Gu Fei, come out and accept your death. Just when everyone was in closed-door training, a voice suddenly came from the distant sky. Humph! At the peak of the divine mountain, Gu Fei sneered and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a fair-skinned young man in a Taoist robe standing high in the sky 1,000 miles away. Gu Fei could clearly sense the killing intent of the other party. Who is this person? Gu Fei muttered to himself. This was the first time he had seen this young man in a Taoist robe. Gu Fei could not understand why this person wanted to kill him. Who are you? Gu Fei sat cross-legged on a large boulder at the peak of the divine mountain, not standing up at all. The first disciple of the South Pole celestial sovereign, Xian Tong. The young man in the Taoist robe said, "The South Pole celestial sovereign." Gu Fei couldn't help but be startled when he heard this. But then he realized that the damned earth immortal old man had invited another expert to deal with him, the first disciple of the South Pole celestial sovereign. Gu Fei looked coldly at the young man in front of him, a powerful fighting spirit emanating from his body. His long hair fluttered even though there was no wind, giving off a strong sense of oppression. "I'm going to take your head and exchange it for wine." As he spoke, Xian Tong pounced on Gu Fei, who was at the peak of the divine mountain. In an instant, he broke into the divine mountain and triggered the killing formation laid down by Erebus. Boom! Divine light soared into the sky, accompanied by a shocking murderous aura. Then, beams of dazzling divine light pierced through the void like peerless heavenly swords, stabbing toward Xian Tong who had barged into the killing formation. The killing formation laid down by He Tian was indeed extraordinary. It could even trap a saint. Bam! With a muffled sound, Xian Tong broke through the killing formation with a wave of his hand and rushed out. Roar! Chapter 2247. Kill. Xian Tong's murderous intent soared into the sky. 9 rays of light shot out from his body, destroying everything in their path as if a supreme immortal had descended. The divine mountain shook and countless formation runes crumbled. All the killing formations laid down by He Tian were destroyed in an instant. Not a single rune was left behind. So strong. At the peak of the mountain, He Tian couldn't help but shudder at the sight. The opponent's combat prowess was ridiculously strong. One should know that Xian Tong was a formation grandmaster, and the killing formations he laid down were no ordinary ones. Who is this? Why is he targeting you, big brother? Shaoqing and the others were startled as well. The powerful aura of a saint shook the entire world. Everyone on the divine mountain was alarmed. No one could cultivate in peace at a time like this, so they all came out. Humph! If I'm not mistaken, this guy should be from the South Pole Immortal Mansion on the ancestral planet Buzhou. Gu Fei's expression was calm, but his eyes lit up. This person's cultivation method came from the same source as the Earth Immortal Old Man BZZ. At that moment, the 9 rays of light around Saint Xian Tong turned into 9 halos that circled around him. The air rumbled as he took a single step forward and reached the peak of the divine mountain. Everyone sensed a powerful aura of the immortal Tao surging over from the front. The pressure was so great that everyone could hardly breathe, and their minds were shaken. It was as if they were facing a supreme god from the primordial times. Even Gu Zhong, Erebus, and the others felt powerless. Before this person, they were as weak as ants. They couldn't even muster the slightest thought of resisting. If it wasn't for Gu Fei standing in front of them, they would have been turned into a mist of blood and destroyed in both body and soul. You're Gu Fei. Saint Xiantong didn't care about the others at all. The only one he cared about was the young cultivator standing at the front of the group. You already know the answer. Gu Fei smiled and said, You should know the earth immortal old man, right? Humph. Saint Xiantong did not say a word and only snorted coldly. The divine light that shot out from his eyes became even more dazzling, and his gaze was as sharp as a knife. Let's fight. Saint Xiantong stared at Gu Fei for a long time before uttering those two words. Rumble. Saint Xiantong then extended his right hand and pressed forward. On his right hand, 9 divine runes of the immortal Tao faintly appeared on his palm, drawing upon the power of the great Tao, causing the void before his palm to tremble. I'd like to see what kind of ability you have to dare to come here. Gu Fei didn't think much of it and directly punched out. Bang! Gu Fei's fist collided with Saint Xiantong's palm, causing a muffled explosion. After that, Saint Xiantong's entire body floated backward like a puff of smoke, instantly drifting more than 10 miles away. As for Gu Fei, he was as still as a mountain, standing on the ground. The successor of the martial ancestor. In the sky more than 10 miles away, Saint Xiantong's expression was extremely solemn. Although he seemed to have flown more than 10 miles away, he was actually sent flying by Gu Fei's fist energy. He looked down and saw that there was a bloody scar on his palm, and his entire forearm was numb. This, Saint Xiantong's heart skipped a beat. This Gu Fei was much stronger than he had imagined. It seemed like the divine ape's defeat was not undeserved. All of you stay on the mountain. Don't go out. Gu Fei instructed the crowd and rushed out from the peak of the sacred mountain. Just as Gu Fei rushed out from the sacred mountain, the void trembled and the illusion of a giant cauldron appeared between heaven and earth, enveloping the sacred mountain. To think that this cauldron from the mythological era is in your hands. When Saint Xiantong saw the illusion of the ancient cauldron, he could not help but feel a trace of extreme Tao aura. He recognized the ancient cauldron. Since ancient times, only one extreme Tao ancient cauldron had appeared, and it was the legendary mountain river cauldron that had existed since the mythological era. The mountain river cauldron was extremely mysterious. No one knew who refined this extreme Tao sacred cauldron because it had existed for far too long. During the mythological era, this ancient cauldron had already appeared, and it could be said that this ancient cauldron was connected to the entire cultivation history of the human race. Although it was just a projection, Saint Xiantong did not think that anyone would be able to make it to the sacred mountain at this point in time, not even a saint. As long as Gu Zhong and Saint Xiantong did not leave the sacred mountain, no one could hurt them. Without further ado, Gu Fei and Saint Xiantong began their battle. This battle was even more intense than the battle between Gu Fei and the great desolate divine ape. You are the South Pole immortal reverend. Gu Fei couldn't help but ask as he attacked. This young man was truly too powerful. Even among the saints, he was probably a rare expert. In the entire South Pole immortal manor, only the South Pole immortal reverend had such a cultivation. My master's name is not something you can say. Saint Xiantong raged. Rumble. He waved both his hands, unleashing a supreme saintly might. The space in front of him directly collapsed, turning into a chaotic void. He wanted to smash Gu Fei into the chaotic void. Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. This young man was actually the disciple of the South Pole immortal reverend? If a disciple had such a powerful cultivation and strength, then wouldn't the South Pole immortal reverend be even more terrifying? Bang! Saint Xiantong's palm slammed onto Gu Fei's chest. The sound of bones shattering rang out as a powerful saint-ranked energy erupted. At the instant Gu Fei's body was flung back, Gu Fei's fist also landed on Saint Xiantong's chest. At the instant he was punched, Saint Xiantong could even hear a strange sound coming from his body. His internal organs were instantly injured as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Roar! Gu Fei roared furiously. Primal chaos chi surged within his body as a powerful life force healed him. The palm print on his chest rapidly disappeared. Very soon, it had completely disappeared. At this moment, The sound of wind and thunder rang out from Saint Xian Tong's internal organs. His blood and qi were incomparably vigorous as his injuries healed rapidly. Very soon, Saint Xian Tong returned to his peak condition. Again, there weren't any fancy moves. The two experts clashed head-on. Saint Xian Tong displayed all sorts of close combat killing techniques that could actually contend against Gu Fei's martial path battle techniques. However, Gu Fei was a cultivator after all, a natural-born fighter. His experience in close combat wasn't something that people of other cultivation systems could understand. Swish. Chapter 22:48. Among the saint-level experts, even those divine beasts with extremely powerful bodies might not be a match for Gu Fei in close combat, let alone Saint Xian Tong, who was also from the human clan. Saint Xian Tong only managed to hold on for a while before Gu Fei grabbed his right calf and spun him around, smashing him into the ground. High-quality update is just around the corner. Bam! The ground shook and dust flew into the air. A bottomless human-shaped pit appeared on the ground. Roar! A roar came from the depths of the earth. Then, the surroundings of the human-shaped pit began to shake, and cracks began to appear on the ground. Boom! In the next moment, the ground exploded with a deafening sound. Dirt and rocks flew in all directions as an extremely ferocious power of the Sage Tao erupted. A figure slowly rose from the ground. 9 halos circled around him, blocking all the dust and sand away as a powerful holy aura of the immortal Tao spread. "You've made me angry." Saint Xian Tong stared at Gu Fei in the sky with a murderous glint in his eyes. "So what?" Gu Fei's face remained calm. "Kill." Saint Xian Tong did not say anything else. He took to the sky and charged at Gu Fei. When he was 10 feet away from Gu Fei, he opened his mouth. Rumble! Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A dazzling bolt of lightning shot out from Saint Xian Tong's mouth, blasting at Gu Fei with destructive power. High-quality update is just around the corner. Gu Fei smiled and waved his right hand, dispersing the incoming lightning bolt. He then charged at Saint Xian Tong in a flash. However, this time around, Saint Xian Tong was much more cautious after suffering a loss. He disappeared from where he was and reappeared a few dozen miles away. He no longer dared to fight in close combat with Gu Fei. Wrath of Lightning. Saint Xian Tong let out an enraged yell and executed his great art. 9 thunderbolts formed a Tao pattern that rushed out from his body. Each thunderbolt Tao pattern was radiating with blinding brilliance, making it hard for people to look straight at it. A destructive power appeared in the world. Furthermore, it was a destructive power that all living beings in the world feared: lightning. The 9 lightning Tao patterns turned into a huge net that was intertwined with lightning and shrouded Gu Fei below. Sage Xian Tong seemed to have turned into a supreme god of lightning, and his entire body was bursting with lightning. Power of lightning? Gu Fei's heart couldn't help trembling when he saw this. This person was truly extraordinary. He actually cultivated lightning energy. It had to be known that it wasn't so easy to cultivate lightning energy to greater mastery. Thunder represented destruction. It was a type of power that the great Tao of heaven and earth used to punish those who dared to challenge the heavens. Haha, you actually want to use this kind of power to deal with me? I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm often struck by lightning. Gu Fei laughed. He didn't dodge at all. Instead, he allowed the lightning net in the sky to envelop him. He even stretched out his hand in an attempt to tear the lightning net apart. High-quality update: when Gu Fei's hands touched the lightning net, there was a series of crackling sounds. Boundless lightning energy instantly shrouded him. In particular, the 9 thunderbolt Tao patterns were imprinted on Gu Fei's body in an attempt to completely seal him. Haha, work harder. Gu Fei, who was in the sea of lightning, laughed heartily. Even the original 9 thunderbolt Tao patterns couldn't completely suppress him. 9 chaotic Tao patterns rushed out of his body and blocked the 9 thunderbolt Tao patterns that were imprinted on his body. Sage Xian Tong's expression changed at the sight of this. Open! Gu Fei's body shook, and a powerful chaotic energy exploded from his body. The 9 thunderbolt Tao patterns were immediately shattered, and a large number of thunderbolts were annihilated. Swoosh! Just as Gu Fei shook off Sage Xian Tong's 9 thunderbolt Dao patterns, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and pierced towards his head. Gu Fei sensed danger and threw a punch at the bolt of lightning. When his fist collided with the bolt of lightning, there was a metallic sound. This bolt of lightning wasn't destroyed by Gu Fei's punch. Instead, it was blown away. When the lightning dissipated, a silver-white divine sword appeared. Thunder Rush Sword? At this moment, He Tian, who was at the peak of the sacred mountain, suddenly had a solemn expression. He recognized that divine sword. It was a famous divine sword in the ancient times. Legend had it that this divine sword was refined by Lord Thunder. It contained the profound meaning of thunder and was extremely powerful. At this moment, the Thunder Rush sword vibrated, and a powerful saint-level power was condensing rapidly. The great Tao mark within the divine sword was awakening. It was as if a sealed, ancient, ferocious beast had awoken in the divine sword, and the saint-level thunder and lightning power was extremely violent. Sage Xian Tong reached out and held the divine sword in his hand. When he held the divine sword, Sage Xian Tong's entire aura changed. Go to hell. Xian Tong held the sword with both hands and slashed at Gu Fei with all his might. Swoosh! Lightning flashed and instantly rushed out for thousands of miles. When the Thunder Rush sword was slashed, it had already triggered the chaotic aura in the surroundings. The power of this sword was earth-shattering. You will be the one to die. Gu Fei was full of confidence. He shook his arms and actually used them to block the spring thunder sword that was descending from the sky. The chaotic aura was vast and mighty, and his arms were covered with chaotic Tao patterns. His entire body was like a human-shaped saint weapon. How is this possible? Xian Tong was shocked to the extreme. His opponent was able to block his Thunder Rush sword with just his arms. What a powerful and terrifying existence. After Gu Fei blocked the divine sword, he reached out to take the Thunder Rush sword from Sage Xian Tong's hand. Clang! Xian Tong waved the divine sword, trying to cut off Gu Fei's arms. However, it was as if the divine sword had struck a piece of indestructible divine steel. It could only cut Gu Fei's sleeves and could not really hurt him. Sky-covering palm. Since Gu Fei failed to take the sword, he changed his move. Rumble. Xian Tong raised his hand and shot out more than 10 heavenly spirit fire thunder beads. The powerful power of thunder and fire exploded, trying to resist Gu Fei's sky-covering palm. However, Gu Fei's sky-covering palm was unstoppable. The heavenly spirit fire thunder beads could not shake the hand and were destroyed by the giant hand. Then, the beads went straight for Xian Tong. Boundless catastrophe, Thunder Ancestor's incarnation. At this time, Xian Tong had to use his most powerful killer move. An extremely powerful power of thunder and lightning exploded from his body. 9 lightning primordial Tao patterns rushed out from his body. Rumble. The 9 Tao patterns intertwined and released endless thunder and lightning. A giant shadow appeared between heaven and earth. Then, the shadow disappeared from Xian Tong's body as if it had fused with him. Gu Fei died. At this time, Xian Tong was extremely powerful. He fused with the Thunder Ancestor's Dharma form, and his combat power increased to a terrifying level. It was as if the real Thunder Ancestor had descended. Swish. Chapter 2249. Xian Tong unleashed his Thunder Ancestor's Dharma body. It was as if the ancient Thunder Ancestor had descended. With just a single slash, he broke through Gu Fei's heaven-covering palm. Buzz. The thunderbolt sword vibrated in Xian Tong's hand, releasing bolts of lightning-like Tao patterns. The Saint Tao brand inside the sword was completely activated. Kill! Xian Tong roared and slashed at Gu Fei's waist with the sword in his hand. The lightning-like sword light soared into the sky, tearing the void apart. None of these guys are easy to deal with, Gu Fei muttered to himself. These ancient saints all had secret arts that could instantly increase their battle prowess. Xian Tong's battle prowess was at least twice as strong as before. Gu Fei sneered and shook his arms. Primal Chaos Tao patterns emerged on his arms. He directly punched at the lightning-like sword light, completely ignoring the Thunderbolt sword's edge. You're courting death. Xian Tong attacked with all his strength. The divine sword in his hand displayed its strongest power. The entire world shook under the swordlight. If this was the outside world, the entire void would have been annihilated, causing a great destruction. Fortunately, this was the chaotic divine soil. The stability of this chaotic world was not something the human world could compare with. Even a powerful saint could not cause too much damage here. Gu Fei's fist collided with Xian Tong's divine sword. It was like two pieces of a mortal divine steel colliding, producing a metallic sound. How is this possible? In that instant, Xian Tong was completely dumbfounded. The thunderbolt sword in his hand could not even break through his opponent's fist. It was as if it had struck an immortal divine metal, causing his hands to go numb from the impact. The two figures instantly separated. This guy is much stronger than the great, desolate divine ape. Gu Fei muttered to himself. He looked down at his right hand and saw a bloodstain on the back of his hand. An extremely sharp sword chi had invaded his arm. His right arm trembled as his chaotic true power exploded forth, and the sword chi that invaded his arm was immediately forced out of his body. Gu Fei was very surprised that his chaotic martial physique was slightly injured. It should be known that his chaotic martial physique was so powerful that it could definitely contend against a sacred tool. Could it be a divine weapon refined by the Thunder Ancestor? The way Gu Fei looked at the divine sword in Xian Tong's hand was somewhat different. This divine sword was extraordinary, but he quickly realized that it could not be a divine weapon refined by the Lightning Ancestor. It should be known that although the primordial Lightning Ancestor wasn't a supreme, he was only half a step away from it. That was an existence much stronger than a saint. That was a quasi-supreme being, a divine weapon forged by a quasi-supreme being. That was a quasi-supreme being divine weapon. It was impossible for a quasi-supreme divine weapon to only have this kind of power. This divine sword might be a divine weapon refined by the successor of the Lightning Ancestor, because this divine sword was not a quasi-supreme divine weapon. Again, Xian Tong's entire body bloomed with lightning, and a terrifying aura of destruction spread out from his body. There was a vague shadow on his body. This was the Dharma body of the Lightning Ancestor. Xian Tong cultivated the lightning immortal art, and when he cultivated it to a high level, he could transform into a thunder god and control the power of heavenly punishment. Buzz. The thunderbolt sword let out a deafening hum and flew out of Xian Tong's hand, turning into countless lightning-like sword lights that pierced towards Gu Fei. Insignificant skill, Gu Fei said indifferently, then he rushed forward, his entire body radiating with primal chaos divine light. And primal chaos Dao runes faintly appeared around him. The chaotic Dao patterns intertwined, and all the lightning-like sword lights that pierced through him flew back, piercing towards Xian Tong. What? Xian Tong was shocked by this unbelievable scene. He couldn't believe that someone could actually reverse his great technique. It should be noted that this was not one or two sword lights, but countless sword lights. It was still reasonable to reverse one or two sword lights, but to reverse and destroy all the sword lights that blotted out the sky and covered the earth was a bit shocking. Withdraw. Xian Tong let out a loud cry and cast a great technique. The countless sword lights that were piercing towards him immediately disappeared in front of him and turned into a divine sword. Just as Xian Tong sheathed his sword, a figure had already appeared in front of Xian Tong, throwing out a punch. The powerful fist energy shook the heavens and the earth. The fist energy enveloped the space in front of it, causing pitch-black spatial cracks to spread from Gu Fei's fist. Bang! Xian Tong felt the air around him tremble violently, and then a powerful suction force appeared, sucking him into the shattered void. Rumble! Just as Xian Tong was about to be knocked into the chaos, a giant chaotic hand slapped into the chaos, knocking Xian Tong into its depths. Humph! You want me to get lost in the chaos void? Dream on! Xian Tong's voice rang out from the chaos. His voice was cold and filled with unwillingness. He was actually suppressed by this person. Only now did Xian Tong realize how powerful and terrifying Gu Fei was. No wonder the Earth Immortal Elder suffered a loss, and even the first divine general died in his hands. This person definitely had the strength to do so, and it wasn't just a rumor. Xian Tong immediately opened an array diagram, which turned into a spatial passageway. Xian Tong immediately rushed into this spatial passageway. He did not want to be trapped in this endless chaotic space. Thousands of miles away from the divine mountain, in a place high up in the sky, the air suddenly rippled like transparent water. Then, a figure seemed to pass through a layer of transparent water and appear in the air. Who else could it be other than Xian Tong, who was just in the depths of the chaos void? When Xian Tong left the primal chaos void, Gu Fei had already sensed Xian Tong's presence. He immediately rushed towards Xian Tong's location. With just one step, Gu Fei had already arrived near the area where Xian Tong was. This was a secret technique that Gu Fei had obtained from the great desolate divine ape, called the shrinking 1,000 mountain steps. With one step, 1,000 mountains would be left behind, and the speed was comparable to Gu Fei's 8 desolation steps. Star-picking moon hand. Gu Fei stretched out his hand, directly grabbing towards Xian Tong. A powerful ripple of energy sealed the void, and then it fell towards Xian Tong's head. An extremely powerful destructive force came down from the giant hand, locking down the heaven and earth, making it impossible for Xian Tong to escape. Roar! Xian Tong roared, desperately rousing the power in his body, and the divine sword in his hand emitted an unprecedentedly bright and powerful divine light. Swoosh! Chapter 2250. After fusing with the Thunder Ancestor's Dharma body, Xian Tong's battle prowess rose to a level that even Gu Fei had no choice but to take him seriously. Swish! A lightning-shaped swordlight flashed and Gu Fei's star-picking hand was immediately destroyed by the swordlight. Gu Fei only felt a sudden chill in his palm. He hurriedly looked down and saw that there was actually a bloodstain on his right palm. Damn, you've angered me. The consequences will be dire, Gu Fei said coldly. Then, a supreme power burst out from his body. His battle prowess soared, and the powerful aura that spread out caused all living beings within 100,000 miles to feel a kind of fear that came from the depths of their souls. Xian Tong's expression changed when he sensed the change in Gu Fei's body. His opponent was still holding back. Could it be that he didn't use his true strength in the exchange just now? Roar! Gu Fei growled. His muscles, bones, blood, and flesh were trembling. The power released from his body was extremely powerful, like a dormant volcano, full of unknown danger. A supreme saint's aura burst out. This kind of pressure made Xian Tong feel suffocated. Looks like Big Brother is getting serious. At this time, on the Divine Mountain, He Tian and the others who had been watching the battle were incomparably nervous. They knew that if Gu Fei was defeated by his opponent, they would definitely die. Master, you must win, Gu Zhong and the others muttered. Big Brother is actually this strong, Shaoqing muttered. He had followed the old turtle in the heaven realm and had seen all kinds of people. Gu Fei was definitely much stronger than the average ancient saint, especially when Gu Fei was a martial artist. The chaotic martial body, this kind of martial arts cultivation physique, had only appeared once in ancient times. However, no one knew what happened to the warrior who cultivated the chaotic martial body in the end. Back then, the chaos affected the entire human realm. In that dark age, even many saints fell, and no one knew how many other creatures died. That great calamity directly led to the destruction of the great desolate world. Some people said that in that battle back then, those elusive supremes might have also taken action. Now, after countless years, another chaotic martial body had finally appeared. Preposterous. This time, Xian Tong truly sensed danger. His opponent was using some kind of secret technique to increase his combat power. If he allowed it to continue, he would be in deep trouble. He wanted to make a move, but Gu Fei merely waved his hand and Xian Tong was sent flying thousands of feet away, coughing out a mouthful of blood. Gotcha! Without any hesitation, Xian Tong crushed a jade token in his hand. Boom! The moment the jade tablet shattered, a ball of divine light shot out from Xian Tong's hand and enveloped him in a flash. Trying to escape, Gu Fei hurriedly made a move, but it was a little too late. The ball of divine light disappeared into the void the moment it enveloped Xian Tong. Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. He never imagined that the person who came to challenge him would just run away like that, without even leaving a word. Knowing that he was no match for his opponent, Qian Tong decisively retreated. High up in the sky of the chaotic world, chaotic energy swirled and a divine island floated amidst it. At this time, a ball of divine light suddenly emerged from one of the pavilions on the divine island. Within the divine light was a youth in a Taoist robe. This person was Qian Tong. It's the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. The divine light dissipated and Qian Tong appeared in the pavilion. This pavilion was no ordinary place. There were many things drawn on the smooth floor beneath Qian Tong's feet. At this time, outside the sacred mountain, Gu Fei's divine sense reached its limit, enveloping an area of 1,000,000 miles. However, this time, he couldn't sense where Qian Tong was. Why are the subordinates of South Pole Immortal Sovereign all so cowardly? Gu Fei muttered to himself. The battle ended in such a manner, causing the spectators in the distance to feel a little disappointed. Only then did they gradually disperse. Gu Fei returned to the sacred mountain and sat cross-legged on the peak, protecting everyone while He Tian and the rest entered their secluded cultivation grounds to prepare for their breakthrough. This time, the opening of the chaotic divine soil was uncertain. No one knew that the passageways connecting the primal chaos world to the various ancestral lands could be closed. In the past, as long as someone became a saint, the passageways connecting the 3 realms and the 6 paths to the ancestral lands would disappear after a few days. But this time, the chaotic world showed no signs of closing. Perhaps this was the calm before the great change. This world was different. The great tribulation that would engulf the 3 realms and the 6 paths could descend at any time. Erebus and the others all felt that time was of the essence. They needed to improve their cultivation base and strength as much as possible before the great calamity arrived. This was the only way they could survive when the great calamity arrived. Just like that, half a year passed. During this time, many powerful existences appeared near the sacred mountain. Some of them had their eyes on this precious cultivation ground and wanted to snatch it. However, these people kicked an iron plate and were chased away by Gu Fei. 1 or 2 ferocious fellows were not so lucky. These ferocious fellows were all killed by Gu Fei at the foot of the sacred mountain. From then on, no one dared to even think about touching the divine mountain, because everyone already knew that there was a ruthless character on the divine mountain. Rumble. In a valley 10,000 miles away from the sacred mountain, the sound of thunder could be heard. Someone had triggered the tribulation of a saint. As the tribulation descended, the weather changed. Finally, someone couldn't take it anymore. At the peak of the sacred mountain, Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on a boulder, opened his eyes. His eyes seemed to be able to see through the void, disregarding the distance and seeing the scene 10,000 miles away. The powerful tribulation of a saint caused all living beings in the region to feel a great terror, as if the world was about to be destroyed. All living beings within a radius of 10,000 miles could feel this kind of fluctuation. Gu Fei did not stand up. He did not have any intention of leaving the sacred mountain to watch. As for the others, they all rushed towards the region where the tribulation of a saint was descending. They wanted to watch the tribulation and then find a way to resist it. The tribulation of a saint lasted for a day and a night. In the end, news came that the one undergoing the tribulation was an almost pure-blooded ancient being. However, that ancient being failed and ended up with a tragic fate of having both his body and soul destroyed. Chapter 22:51. On the sacred mountain, He Tian, Gu Zhong, Shaoqing, and the others were already in seclusion. They wanted to break through to the saint realm because no one knew when this chaotic world would close. If they were trapped in this chaotic world, they would have to wait for 10,000 years before they would have a chance to leave. 10,000 years was too long, so Gu Fei had to seize every moment. At this moment, other than Gu Fei standing guard on the sacred mountain, there were also disciples of the Ming clan patrolling the mountain. "Someone wants to see me," Gu Fei muttered to himself. Then, he said to the disciple of the Ming clan, "Bring him up." He wanted to see who would come here at this time. Could it be someone he knew from the past, or one of his enemies? Gu Fei knew very well that he definitely had more enemies than friends. Whether it was the Buzhou ancestral star or the soaring dragon ancestral star, Gu Fei had many enemies. There were definitely many people who wanted Gu Fei dead. Soon, the disciple of the Ming clan brought someone up the mountain. It's him. When Gu Fei saw this person, he was startled. He did not expect it to be this person, the first person he met in the chaotic divine soil. Greetings, Master. Congratulations on becoming a saint. When the person saw Gu Fei, he quickly walked to the rock where Gu Fei was and bowed respectfully to Gu Fei, not daring to be negligent. Ji Changkong, Gu Fei said. This person was Ji Changkong from the Crepe Myrtle ancestral star. This guy had been guarding Gu Fei when he was in seclusion. However, after Gu Fei successfully broke through his limits and became a sage, many things happened. For a moment, Xiao Qian tossed Ji Changkong to the back of his mind. I heard that Master is here, so I rushed over immediately, Ji Changkong said. Ji Changkong was good at judging people. His ability to judge people was top-notch. He had already predicted that Gu Fei would become a saint, but he did not expect that his prediction would come true. You're quite well-informed. Gu Fei glanced at Ji Changkong below and said, Boom. Just as Ji Changkong was about to say something, a loud sound came from outside the gates of the sacred mountain. A powerful shockwave erupted from the foot of the mountain. What happened? Gu Fei abruptly stood up from the boulder and swept his gaze down the divine mountain. He saw 3 men in black standing outside the mountain gate. Several disciples of the Ming family had already fallen in the mountain gate, but they were still alive. The entire sacred mountain was enveloped by the power of the mountain and river cauldron. As long as they stayed within the mountain gate, even a sage would not be able to harm the disciples of the Ming clan within the mountain gate. But now, the 3 guys outside the mountain gate had actually knocked a few disciples of the Ming clan to the ground through the mountain gate, causing them to spit out blood. It was obvious that they were seriously injured. These guys, when Gu Fei saw this scene, he could not help but be incomparably shocked. These people came so quickly. At this moment, Ji Changkong secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had already ascended the sacred mountain. With Gu Fei here, even if that person came, he would not be able to do anything to him. How dare you come here and cause trouble? You're courting death. Gu Fei took a step forward and instantly disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared at the foot of the mountain, in front of the mountain gate. Master, these 3 people. When the disciples of the Ming clan saw that Gu Fei had personally arrived, they could not help but be shocked. They then struggled to stand up. However, the 3 disciples of the Ming clan had suffered a great impact. Their entire bodies were sore, and it was difficult for them to stand up. The 3 of them were so anxious that their foreheads were covered in sweat. One should know that it was not easy to see their master. It was rare for them to have a chance to approach their master. How could they miss it? All right, you've all done well. I will reward you. You should all take a rest. Gu Fei said to the 3 disciples of the Ming clan. Yes, Master. The 3 disciples of the Ming clan quickly replied. You are the master of this place. Outside the mountain gate, the leader of the black-clothed men looked at Gu Fei and said coldly, How dare you guys injure my people? Gu Fei did not care about what these people were saying. He only cared that these people dared to come here and cause trouble. In the current chaotic world, everyone knew that this was his territory. Killing the great, desolate divine ape and defeating the number 1 disciple of the South Pole immortal reverend. Such combat skills were enough to make even the powerful ancient sages feel apprehensive. The fact that they dared to come here at this time meant that these people were not ordinary. In reality, these 3 black-clothed men were not ordinary either. They were true experts. Each of them emitted a powerful aura, especially the middle-aged man with a black beard. His body was surrounded by the aura of a sage. He was a sage. As for the 2 young men behind the middle-aged man, they were both at the greater success quasi-sage level. They were only half a step away from the sage level. We injured these 3 pieces of trash. So what? One of the young men behind the middle-aged man said arrogantly. One look, and one could tell that this guy was a domineering person. Trash. Hearing this, Gu Fei's face turned gloomy. Shut up. At this moment, the black-clothed young man wanted to say something else. However, the middle-aged man glared at him, and he did not dare to say anything else. Friend, If you hand Ji Changkong over to us, we will leave immediately. The black-clothed middle-aged man stared at Gu Fei and said, with his cultivation, he could naturally tell that Gu Fei was also a sage. He did not want to offend someone like Gu Fei and make enemies for his clan. Ji Changkong. Hearing this, Gu Fei was startled. Are these three guys chasing after Ji Changkong? This guy is really up to no good. At this moment, Gu Fei finally understood. It turned out that Ji Changkong had been chased all the way here and thought of him when he had nowhere else to go. Ji Changkong is indeed here. Please hand him over. Another young man said, Why should I hand him over to you? Gu Fei was very unhappy. If he had not used the mountain and river cauldron to protect the entire godly mountain, these three fellows would have already rushed up the mountain and turned it upside down. Friend, we come from the ancestral star of the Z-Wei, the middle-aged man said. I see. You guys are from the Z-Wei family. At this moment, Gu Fei finally understood why the three of them were so confident. It turned out that there was a colossus behind them. In the ancestral star of Z-Wei, the Ji family controlled the entire ancient star. They had never lacked experts and geniuses, which was why they were able to survive generation after generation. Now that you know who we are, why don't you obediently hand Ji Changkong over? A black-clothed young man behind the middle-aged man said. What a joke. Gu Fei was a little unhappy. He took a step forward and walked out of the mountain gate, standing in front of the three black-clothed men. A powerful sage wave was emitted from Gu Fei's body and pressed towards the three black-clothed men. Rumble. There seemed to be thunder around Gu Fei. It seemed like the space around him could no longer contain his powerful chaotic martial body and could shatter at any time. Friend, we can talk about this. The middle-aged man hurriedly brought his two nephews and retreated. At the same time, a powerful sage energy exploded from the middle-aged man. The two sages were facing each other. Talk my ass. Gu Fei directly attacked the three black-robed men. With a stretch of his hand, the entire world was enveloped. A gigantic hand of chaos appeared above the heads of the three black-robed men and pressed down. Fight! The middle-aged man shouted and flipped his hands. A divine saber and a divine sword appeared in his hands. Buzz! The middle-aged man shook the divine weapons in his hands. Two sage energy condensed on the divine sword and the divine saber, giving off a crisp sound as if they could be unsheathed at any time. Go! The divine saber and the divine sword flew up and interweaved with black and white patterns. They attracted the powerful sage energy and rushed towards Gu Fei. The power of yin and yang? Gu Fei was not surprised when he saw this. In the world of cultivation, there were many people who cultivated the power of yin and yang. They could also become sages by cultivating the power of yin and yang. Yin saber and yang sword. I didn't expect this old man to lead the team in this life. Ji Changkong, who was at the peak of the divine mountain, could not help but mutter to himself. The yin saber and yang sword were already very famous sage weapons in the ancient times. In the current world, there were definitely not many people who could recognize the yin saber and yang sword. Bang! Gu Fei immediately used the chaos fist. Chaos patterns appeared on his fists and interweaved with each other, activating the power of the Great Path. Gu Fei's fist collided with the yin saber and yang sword at high speed. Clanging sounds could be heard. He was actually fighting against the sage weapon with his bare hands. How is this possible? The middle-aged man was clearly stunned by the scene in front of him. There was actually someone who could catch his yin saber and yang sword with his bare hands. Boom! Gu Fei showed his might. His fist force suddenly erupted like a volcano, spreading in all directions. The space shook and the yin saber and yang sword were knocked away. At this time, the two young cultivators behind the middle-aged man were already stunned. They never thought that the master of the divine mountain would be so powerful. Kill! Without any hesitation, Gu Fei threw a punch at the trio. The peerlessly powerful fist force sent the trio flying. The two youths spurted blood from their mouths. It was obvious that they had suffered serious injuries. Only the middle-aged man only had a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. How dare you? The middle-aged man roared. He was shocked and angry at the same time. Only now did he realize that this guy called Gu Fei was not someone with an undeserved reputation. He had the strength to kill a sage. Chapter 2252. Do you know who we are? How dare you try to kill us? The middle-aged man wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. His eyes turned cold as he stared at Gu Fei. His words were even colder than his eyes. Ji Hong, could it be that you can represent the entire Ji clan? At this moment, a voice came from the direction of the God Mountain. At the peak of the God Mountain stood a youth in ragged clothes. This person was Ji Chongkong. Ji Chongkong, you colluded with outsiders and killed the elites of my clan. You deserve to die 10,000 times. The middle-aged man called Ji Hong looked at Ji Chongkong and said sternly, Wow, what a heavy crime. Ji Chongkong pretended to be afraid. Looks like you're not that honest. Gu Fei glanced at Ji Chongkong, who was standing on the God Mountain, before saying, Ji Chongkong had actually lured this Ji Hong here. Looks like I've been used by this fellow as well. Master, I, Ji Chongkong, have already followed you. I'm your man. This guy wants to kill me. Please help me. Ji Chongkong hurriedly bowed to Gu Fei. If Gu Fei didn't care about him now, he might not be able to avoid this calamity. Thinking of this, Ji Chongkong's forehead was covered with a thin layer of sweat. He was extremely nervous. There was a reason why Ji Chongkong was able to live for 10,000 years in the primal chaos world. During these 10,000 years, he had been thinking of ways to survive. He knew that if the people who framed him were still alive, they would definitely be the ones in charge of the Ji clan. He was originally the most outstanding elite of the Ji clan of the Crepe Myrtle Star. He was the most popular candidate for the next Ji clan head. He thought that those people wouldn't dare to do anything to him. However, he had no choice but to suffer because of his carelessness. In order to survive, Ji Chongkong could be said to have suffered all kinds of hardships. The only thing that kept him going was the hatred in his heart. And now, those people still didn't want to let him off. This Ji Hong was an elder of the Ji clan who stood on that person's side. Back then, this Ji Hong also participated in the framing of him. The Ji clan of the Z Myrtle Ancestral Star was the greatest clan of the planet. It had many branches, and the prodigies of the various branches would compete against each other for the position of patriarch. Only the one who defeated all their rivals could become the patriarch of the clan. 10,000 years ago, the Ji clan produced a few geniuses. Ji Chongkong was one of them. Furthermore, he was the most outstanding genius among them. Ji Chongkong originally thought that he would be able to become the next clan head. But he never expected that someone would of the Ji clan's clan to use such a despicable method. He wanted revenge. That person had most likely already become the family head. He had been lost in the primal chaos world for 10,000 years. Everyone who had followed him into the primal chaos world had died. He was the only one left. In this state, what could he use to fight against that person? And when the chaos world opened once again, he met Gu Fei. Gu Fei was his hope, because he had never seen someone more amazing than Gu Fei. The matter proved that he, Ji Chongkong, had not misjudged Xiao Chun. You heard him. He's my man now. Gu Fei said to Ji Hong. Very good, we will meet again. Next time, you won't be able to protect this traitor of the Ji family. After Ji Hong finished speaking, he wanted to leave with the two young men. You still want to leave alive? Gu Fei laughed. This guy was too stupid, but he was too smart. Even at this point, he still wanted to escape unscathed, and he even dared to threaten him. What do you want? Ji Hong exclaimed in shock. His opponent's combat prowess was far above his own. Could it be that he was going to die here today? Haha, you still don't know what I want to do? Gu Fei laughed. Hearing this, Ji Hong's expression turned ugly. Then, he said to Gu Fei in a deep voice, You better think this through. Going against the Ji clan will not end well. How dare you go against the Ji family? You're courting death. Let us go. That's the only way for you to live. The two young men behind Ji Hong said disdainfully. In their eyes, the Ji family was invincible. No one could go against the Ji family. Even a great sage might not be able to shake the Ji family. One should know that the Ji family of the ancestral star of the Crepe Myrtle Star could rule the entire ancestral star. Even those ancient forces that had supremes in the past were inferior to them. Haha, Gu Fei couldn't help but laugh as if he had heard the funniest thing in the world. These guys were too weird. They were about to die, but they were still so arrogant. At this moment, Ji Hong had already discovered that the world he was in seemed to have been completely sealed by some power. It was already impossible for him to use the void-shifting technique. Ji Hong's expression changed. Whoosh! At this moment, Gu Fei took a step forward and disappeared from where he was. Roar! Ji Hong roared furiously. His long hair danced wildly in the wind. Peerless power of sainthood erupted from his body. A ball of light surged from him, enveloping him and the two so-called geniuses of the Ji family. However, even though Ji Hong wanted to go all out against Gu Fei, the situation did not develop as he had expected. Kacha! With a soft sound, a hand shrouded in chaotic aura tore apart the layer of divine light around Ji Hong and went for his head. Ji Hong exhaled. As soon as he opened his mouth, a beam of divine light shot out from his mouth and went for the hand that was going for his head. Buzz! The void shook. Within the beam of divine light was a black iron spear. A ferocious aura emanated from the iron spear. It was a lethal weapon. However, the hand completely ignored the weapon and continued to go for it. Clang! The hand clashed with the black iron spear and let out a metallic clang. The spear was then blown away by the hand, unable to hurt the hand. Only then did Ji Hong realize that his opponent's strength had far exceeded his expectations, and the consequences of his mistake were dire. Boom! At this moment, a dull thud was heard. A figure smashed through the protective layer of divine light around Ji Hong and arrived before him. A powerful pressure of the sage level emanated from the figure. Ugh! Ugh! Chapter 22:53. At a time like this, life and death could be decided in an instant. Ji Hong had no time to care about the lives of the two Ji clan elites behind him. One should know that nothing was more important than his own life. Shadow shift! Ji Hong roared angrily. His body suddenly blurred. Bang! When Gu Fei's hand landed, the blurry figure was immediately shattered by the vast chaotic force from his hand. However, there was no scene of blood splattering. Gu Fei was shocked. Just then, a silhouette appeared out of thin air 100 feet away from him. It was Ji Hong, who had just dodged Gu Fei's fatal attack. Devour the sun, Ji Hong had no other choice but to fight Gu Fei with his life on the line. He immediately unleashed his trump card. Divine force of the immortal Tao surged out from his hands. 9 primordial Tao patterns intertwined between his hands. Then, the space collapsed and a golden whirlpool appeared, emitting a terrifying devouring power. Rumble! The space around the golden whirlpool was being devoured. This was definitely a heaven-devouring power that could devour the sun, moon, and stars. This was a killing technique that Ji Hong had cultivated. He had used this killing technique to kill many opponents stronger than him. However, the opponent today was ridiculously strong. The golden whirlpool was devouring the heavens and earth, but the terrifying devouring power couldn't shake Gu Fei. Gu Fei was like a divine mountain in the middle of a storm. No matter how strong the storm was, he didn't move at all. Even his clothes didn't flutter. 9 primal chaos Tao patterns appeared around Gu Fei, stabilizing the void around him and blocking the heaven-devouring power that was being emitted from the golden whirlpool. How was this possible? Ji Hong was shocked. His trump card had actually lost its power. This made him feel discouraged, but at the same time, he also felt that Lai Gu Fei was in danger. Gu Fei reached out his right hand and pressed forward. In his palm, the 9 chaotic Tao patterns intertwined, forming a chaotic vortex. As soon as the vortex of primal chaos appeared, it frantically devoured Ji Hong's energy. Ji Hong cultivated the energy of the metal element, which was the purest form of yang energy. However, this energy was drawn over by Gu Fei. The metal elemental power was gathering in the palm of Gu Fei's right hand. The golden whirlpool that was formed by the interweaving of the 9 gold elemental Tao patterns gradually dimmed. The gold elemental energy was quickly being consumed by Gu Fei's palm. Sensing the power in his body rapidly draining away, Ji Hong was extremely shocked. The other party had actually grasped a great technique that could devour the other party's power. Could it be? A light flashed in Ji Hong's mind. He thought of a supreme technique that had disappeared since ancient times. It seemed like only that kind of supreme technique could have such heaven-defying power. Gu Fei had just become a sage not long ago. He needed a large amount of essence to refine his martial body and make it stronger. Looking inside, Gu Fei could see the chaotic light flowing on his bones. His bones were crystal clear and had a kind of chaotic divinity. To Gu Fei, only the martial body was the source of his strength. Making his muscles, bones, and flesh stronger was far better than cultivating any great arts. A martial cultivator becoming a sage was the only one that had appeared in countless years. Rumble. The golden light lit up the entire world. An ancient sage had fallen. The power of self-destruction spread in all directions. A large area of the void was annihilated. The earth was cracking and sinking. The golden light that rushed towards the 9 chaotic patterns was blocked by the 9 chaotic patterns. Boom! At that moment, another earth-shattering explosion rang out. The black iron spear also exploded, turning into a torrent of destruction, directly destroying the space within a radius of 10,000 li. This destructive current rushed towards Gu Fei. Gu Fei snorted. He flipped his left hand, and an ancient cauldron appeared in his hand. Then, he aimed the mouth of the cauldron at the incoming golden current of destruction. Chapter 2254. An elder of the Ji clan was forced to self-destruct by Gu Fei. A saint's self-destruction was an earth-shattering event. Even in the ancient times, it was a great event because the destructive power of a saint's self-destruction was too great. If a saint were to self-destruct in the human realm, it would probably be able to directly destroy an ancestral planet with life, and even an entire star region would be completely destroyed. However, this was the chaotic world, and it was extremely stable. Moreover, Gu Fei had used the 9 chaotic Dao runes to seal this part of the world. Ji Hong's entire body turned into a dazzling golden light. The 9 golden primordial runes were destroyed, giving birth to a destructive power that could destroy the world. Rumble. The golden light expanded and the world shook. The chaotic aura within a radius of millions of miles was dispersed. The earth was cracking and sinking. A terrifying shockwave swept out, and the stone mountains exploded, turning into dust and dissipating between the heavens and the earth. In just an instant, the golden light expanded to a diameter of a few hundred miles. Everything that was enveloped by the golden light was annihilated. Even under the suppression of Gu Fei's 9 chaotic Dao runes, it was difficult to completely suppress this power. So powerful. At this time, Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. The final power displayed by the ancient saint's self-destruction was too strong. It was even more powerful than a full-strength attack from Ji Hong. Ji Hong wanted to drag Gu Fei down with him, but unfortunately, this level of power was not enough to threaten Gu Fei. Rumble. The world shook. The 9 chaotic Dao runes in the void were emitting chaotic divine light. It was as if they were communicating with the heaven and earth, drawing in endless chaotic power. This was Gu Fei's advantage. In this primal chaos world, his chaotic martial body was innately close to the chaotic force. In this place, he seemed to possess inexhaustible power. The chaotic essence from all directions converged towards Gu Fei's 9 chaotic Dao runes. Buzz. The 9 chaotic Dao runes vibrated together and emitted the chaotic power of the Great Path. It gradually sealed the golden light, making it difficult for it to expand any further. At the same time, Gu Fei held the cauldron of mountain and river in his hand and activated a trace of its power. This caused the cauldron to produce a heaven-devouring power that continuously devoured the unyielding metal elemental power. The power of the cauldron of mountain and river was astonishing. The metal elemental power that was sealed by the 9 chaotic Dao runes immediately turned into a golden beam of light. It rushed towards the cauldron in Gu Fei's hand and disappeared into it. This metal elemental power that was strong enough to destroy a saint was very useful to Gu Fei. It would be too much of a pity if he let it dissipate in the void just like that. At this moment, Ji Changkong was dumbfounded as he watched this scene from the top of the sacred mountain. He had never imagined that Gu Fei, who had just become a saint, would be so powerful and terrifying. He was actually able to force Ji Hong to self-destruct. Tens of thousands of years ago, he was one of the most outstanding people in the Ji clan. As an elder of the Ji clan, he naturally knew how strong Ji Hong was. Back then, Ji Changkong's group also wanted to fight for Ji Hong's support. Unfortunately, Ji Hong chose someone else in the end. Looks like there's hope for my revenge, Ji Changkong muttered to himself. The battle between Gu Fei and Ji Hong had caused a great commotion. It was impossible not to alarm others. Moreover, there were mysterious people around the Divine Mountain even during normal times. These mysterious people were monitoring the Divine Mountain. Since Ji Hong died just like that, someone muttered in the distant sky. This person clearly came from the ancestral star of Crepe Myrtle. Otherwise, he would not have known Ji Hong, the elder of the Ji clan. The person quickly retreated. Gu Fei was too powerful. He could kill saints. He was almost invincible among those of the same level. Perhaps only great saints were qualified to fight him. This was the strength and terror of a martial saint. As long as one had some achievements in cultivation, they could look down on their peers and be almost invincible. Gu Fei's fame was earned through killing. At this time, even some famous ancient saints were afraid of Gu Fei and did not want to provoke him. Around 2 hours later, the boundless metal elemental energy from Ji Hong's self-destruction was completely devoured by the mountain river cauldron. The extremely terrifying pressure in the world disappeared. All of the living beings who sensed this sacred pressure heaved sighs of relief. The 9 chaotic Tao runes flew back to Gu Fei and entered his body. He put away the mountain and river cauldron, then returned to the Divine Mountain and ascended to the peak. This battle did not alarm those in seclusion on the Divine Mountain. Gu Zhong and the others did not come out of their seclusion. He's a ruthless person. There were still some people who had not left. They were extremely shocked. A powerful ancient saint was actually not a match for Gu Fei. The martial ancestor's bloodline is really terrifying, someone murmured. At this time, everyone already knew that Gu Fei was a martial saint, a chaotic martial saint. It's not a lie to say that he's invincible among his peers. The martial ancestor had killed more than one demon ancestor. Someone sighed. The martial ancestor was definitely the strongest supreme being of the human race since ancient times. There was no doubt about this. He challenged the entire demon race alone and killed more than one demon ancestor. Such a battle record was something that other supreme beings of the human race could never hope to achieve. There was the shadow of the martial ancestor on Gu Fei. In the end, everyone retreated. Ji Hong's self-destruction left nothing behind, but Gu Fei had absorbed the destructive energy into the mountain and river cauldron. He did not come out empty-handed. Unfortunately, Ji Hong's black iron spear was destroyed. This saint weapon was very suitable for Gu Zhong because Gu Zhong cultivated the metal martial body. After all, it was not an easy task to find a suitable saint weapon. Master, please uphold justice for me. After Gu Fei returned to the sacred mountain, Ji Changkong immediately went forward and knelt before Gu Fei. This guy, Gu Fei glanced at Ji Changkong with a meaningful gaze. After that, Ji Changkong began to tell a story about himself. I see. Gu Fei understood what had happened. It turned out that something like this had happened to Ji Changkong. He had been framed by his own clan and was trapped in this primal chaos world for 10,000 years. 10,000 years. That was a very long time. It was because that person suddenly attacked Ji Changkong when he was going through the tribulation of the sage that Ji Changkong almost died. Although Ji Changkong survived in the end, his foundation to become a sage was destroyed. He had no choice but to cultivate from the beginning and rebuild his foundation. I will see to it. You may leave. Gu Fei sat cross-legged on the boulder at the peak of the Divine Mountain and waved his hand. Yes. Ji Changkong quickly retreated. Countless geniuses appeared, and in this era, there was going to be more than one saint. This prediction came true. After Gu Fei became a sage, the primal chaos world did not close. Everyone wanted to become a sage, but everyone was very cautious. After all, the risk of triggering the heavenly tribulation of a sage was too great. If it didn't succeed, then both his body and soul would be destroyed and he would completely disappear from this world. He wouldn't even be able to be a ghost. This person had the same appearance as Gu Fei. Gu Fei opened his inner world. A powerful figure walked out. This person had the same appearance as Gu Fei. This was Gu Fei's immortal sovereign holy physique. Gu Fei's immortal sovereign holy physique replaced Gu Fei and sat cross-legged on the stone, guarding the divine mountain on behalf of Gu Fei. Then, his real body left the divine mountain and headed towards the direction of the heavenly tribulation. Gu Zhong, He Tian, and the rest were still in seclusion. They were at a critical juncture. Gu Fei could not afford to be careless. Especially He Tian, Shaoqing, and the Iron Blood Taoist. All of them had one foot in the saint realm. As long as they took another step forward, they would become saints. Rumble. At this moment, above the head of the young man on the stone mountain, thunder rumbled one after another. The world shook and a terrifying pressure descended. This was the power of heaven and earth. There was a layer of divine light circulating around the young man's body. He was resisting the power of heaven and earth. On another stone mountain thousands of miles away from the young man, an old man with white hair and a beard was sitting cross-legged. This old man was the guardian of the young man, who was attracting the heavenly tribulation of a saint. Some talents from super forces would be protected by guardians when they were undergoing the heavenly tribulation. This was to prevent others from attacking the person undergoing the heavenly tribulation during the process. One could not be careless when undergoing the heavenly tribulation of a saint. This was a battle that only had two outcomes. These two outcomes were life and death. No one had ever heard of someone surviving after failing the heavenly tribulation of a saint. Once the heavenly tribulation failed, the only outcome was the destruction of both body and soul. By the time Gu Fei arrived in the vicinity, there were already quite a number of people watching. That person, when Gu Fei saw the young man on the stone mountain in front of him, his eyes suddenly lit up. His hands were trembling with excitement. What's going on? Gu Fei muttered to himself. He couldn't understand why this person would appear here. What had happened in the Dragon Valley all those years ago? The young man sitting on the ground at the top of the stone mountain was Li Lingfeng, who had disappeared for countless years. He was the eldest brother of the Taishan sect. Gu Fei almost couldn't help but rush forward. He had a lot to ask Li Lingfeng, but at this time, the heavenly tribulation had arrived. It was not the time to talk about the past. He really wanted to know what had happened in the Dragon Valley all those years ago, and where his other brothers and sisters were. Rebuilding the Taishan sect was an obsession of Gu Fei's. Rumble. The tribulation clouds in the sky were falling, pressing down from the sky. Chaotic lightning struck out from the tribulation clouds, temporarily illuminating the world. Li Lingfeng, don't die. Gu Fei muttered to himself. Although he was on the divine mountain, he was still very well informed. In this chaotic world, other than him and the guy from the extraterrestrial divine mountain who had become saints, no one had succeeded in becoming a saint. This was also why it took so long for someone to trigger the heavenly tribulation of a saint. Boom. At this time, a chaotic lightning struck down from the tribulation clouds, bombarding Li Lingfeng on the stone mountain. The heavenly tribulation of a saint had begun. The appearance of Li Lingfeng made the idea of rebuilding the Taishan sect in Gu Fei's mind become active again. Buzz. The void around Li Lingfeng trembled. 8 trigrams rushed out from his body and formed an 8 trigrams pattern above his head. When the chaotic lightning struck the 8 trigrams, it was completely absorbed by the 8 trigrams. This. Chapter 2256. Li Lingfeng had actually appeared in the chaotic world and had triggered the heavenly tribulation of a saint. This surprised Gu Fei. The eldest disciple of the Taishan sect was actually still alive. Li Lingfeng. Gu Fei stood on a low mountain and looked at the figure under the tribulation clouds in front of him. His voice trembled. He had never lost his composure like this before. Even when he encountered the most powerful opponent, he was not like this at this time. He was afraid that Li Lingfeng had died under the heavenly tribulation of a saint. It should be known that the heavenly tribulation of a saint was not so easy to pass. If one was not careful, it was very likely that they would be consigned to eternal damnation. Even when Gu Fei was undergoing the heavenly tribulation, he almost died and his body and soul were almost destroyed, let alone the others. Gu Fei wanted to know from Li Lingfeng exactly what had happened in the Dragon Valley back then, and who among the other senior and junior brothers had survived. Back then, the Dragon Valley was jointly attacked by the experts of the Zhao family of the ancients and the Dongfang family. The disciples of the Taishan sect fled in all directions, and there were probably not many who survived. The grudge between him and the Zhao family of the ancients had already been settled. Those from the Zhao family who had participated in the attack on the Dragon Valley had all been killed by him. The grudge between Gu Fei and the Zhao family of the ancients could be considered to have been resolved, but the initiators of the incident, the Dongfang family, could not be forgiven. This was an irreconcilable hatred. Who is that? How dare he trigger the heavenly tribulation of a saint? Some of the onlookers whispered. This person cultivates the art of 8 trigrams. Could it be the inheritance of the lineage that has been lost for countless years? An ancient saint muttered to himself. In the distant past, there was once an amazing figure. That person observed the changes of all things in the world, comprehended the mystery of the sun, moon, and stars, and created an amazing magic power. This amazing magic power was the primordial 8 trigrams. The person who created this great technique was the legendary supreme human Fushi. This Fushi came from the ancestral planet of Kunlun, which was an ancestral land of life in the infinite universe of the human world. The cultivation world of Kunlun ancestral star was once extremely glorious, and the ancient Lord Buddha had once manifested his true form there, passed down the great arts of Buddhism, and was known as the Gautama Buddha by all living beings on the planet. The footprints of the Taoist ancestor had also appeared there. The legendary old man on the Kunlun ancestral star who rode a green bull through the Hangu Pass was a body of the Taoist ancestor. There were countless legends in the Kunlun ancestral star. Some of the legends had completely disappeared, and no one ever mentioned them again. However, there were some legends that could be passed down through the ages, and were still being sung by the humans on the Kunlun ancestral star. The legacy on Kunlun's ancestral star has reappeared. Some of the ancient saints were shocked. In their opinion, the ancestral star of Kunlun had become a legend. No cultivators from the ancestral star of Kunlun had appeared in the primal chaos world for countless years. This life is indeed extraordinary. Someone thought of something and could not help but sigh. That place was once extremely glorious. These voices reached Gu Fei's ears, and he could not help but be shocked. It was very difficult to find powerful cultivators on the ancestral star of Kunlun. Moreover, the spiritual qi on the ancestral star was extremely thin. Except for a few places that were suitable for cultivators to cultivate, there was not a single cultivator to be seen in other places. Gu Fei looked at the old man who was guarding Li Lingfeng. He was shocked to find that he could not see through the old man's cultivation. This surprised him because it meant that the old man's cultivation was not below his. What happened to Li Lingfeng? Gu Fei was very curious, but what he wanted to know more was whether any of the brothers and sisters of the Taishan sect were still alive, especially the news of that person, Rumble. At this time, the whole world seemed to be pressing down, and the terrifying pressure from heaven and earth made everyone's heart tremble. This kind of heavenly power was almost impossible to resist. This was the saint's heavenly tribulation, a kind of heavenly tribulation that almost made the person undergoing it despair. Bolts of chaotic lightning descended from the sky, constantly bombarding Li Lingfeng below. Each bolt of chaotic lightning was as huge as a mountain, tearing the world apart. Buzz. The void space trembled, and the 8 trigrams pattern floating above Li Lingfeng's head emitted bright divine light. The aura of the great path was mighty, and each trigram seemed to have evolved a side of the world, constantly devouring the power of chaotic lightning. This person is very scary. After seeing this scene, some people could not help but be shocked. This was fighting against the saint's heavenly tribulation, seizing the creation of the world. Very few people would do this when facing the saint's heavenly tribulation, because most people who chose this path would not last long under the heavenly tribulation and would be destroyed by the chaotic lightning. I heard that Gu Fei also successfully passed the heavenly tribulation in this way and became a martial saint. Someone whispered. Fighting against the saint's heavenly tribulation was seen as a dead end by most people, But these people also knew very well that if one could successfully pass the heavenly tribulation in this way, then the person who succeeded would be much stronger than the average saint. The heavenly tribulation gradually began to move, and the chaotic lightning from the tribulation clouds became more and more concentrated. As it continued to devour the power of the chaotic lightning, the 8 trigrams were also undergoing subtle changes. The 8 trigrams were like the carrier of the great path, and they also seemed to be 8 kinds of immortal primordial patterns of the great path. The aura of the divine path that they emitted was different from the others. Normally, when a cultivator became a saint, they would comprehend 9 primordial patterns of the great path, but at this time, the primordial patterns that Li Lingfeng displayed seemed to have only 8. Moreover, the 8 primordial patterns of the great path that he comprehended had already merged with the 8 trigrams. The trigrams were the primordial patterns, and the primordial patterns were the trigrams. What kind of path did he walk? Gu Fei was very surprised. This was the first time he saw something like this. Li Lingfeng had shown the world another way to become a saint, and this method could even give him the chance to become a supreme being in the world. The trigrams were vibrating. No matter how powerful the lightning was, the Tao diagram formed by the 8 trigrams would devour the power of the lightning completely, drawing the power of the heavenly tribulation to temper the primordial patterns. So this is also possible. The eyes of some greater success quasi-saints lit up. Li Lingfeng had shown them a way to pass the heavenly tribulation. This method might succeed, or it might fail. However, this was a path that had been walked by predecessors. The experience accumulated by predecessors was extremely important to Li Lingfeng. The power of the heavenly tribulation seemed to be endless. Wave after wave of terrifying lightning descended from the sky, blasting towards Li Lingfeng. Soon, Li Lingfeng was enveloped by the endless lightning. The divine light emitted by the 8 trigrams was faintly discernible in the sea of lightning formed by the lightning. Gu Fei could sense that Li Lingfeng's life force was still as strong as before. There were no signs of his blood qi weakening. This was definitely a good thing for Li Lingfeng. Unbelievable. He actually withstood it. Some people were extremely shocked. The primal chaos lightning tribulation could be said to be the most terrifying heavenly tribulation in the world. However, there was actually someone who wanted to devour this power. After 24 hours, the primal chaos lightning tribulation stopped. At this time, an indescribable aura was emitted from Li Lingfeng's body. The 8 trigrams were still floating above his head. However, at this time, there were actually 8 voids forming on the 8 trigrams. How is this possible? Everyone was shocked to the extreme. What was going on? Could it be that he wanted to open up 8 small heavens and earth? This was too shocking. 8 lesser worlds. If he could support these 8 lesser worlds, wouldn't that mean that he would have 8 inner worlds? Not bad. The old man who was standing guard for Li Lingfeng couldn't help but nod his head in approval. Li Lingfeng's performance had exceeded his expectations. The mystique that Li Lingfeng had cultivated was truly heaven-defying. However, at this time, the tribulation clouds in the sky did not disperse. A power that was even more powerful and terrifying than before erupted. A type of chaotic divine fire that could burn everything in the world to ashes descended from the sky, burning towards Li Lingfeng. The void was destroyed silently. As the chaotic divine fire descended, the 8 trigrams hovering above Li Lingfeng's head immediately released a powerful force that enveloped Li Lingfeng. At the next moment, the torrential chaotic divine fire completely drowned Li Lingfeng. The chaotic divine fire was very terrifying. It was said to be able to burn everything in the world. However, at this time, the chaotic divine fire had lost its power. Within the sea of fire, Li Lingfeng remained unmoving like a mountain. The 8 trigrams above his head had already spread out, imprinting themselves in the void around him. They released the power of the great path, blocking off the chaotic divine fire that was surging over from all directions. Not only that, but the 8 trigrams were still devouring the power of the chaotic divine fire. Rumble. The 8 trigrams were trembling. The 8 voids kept expanding, showing signs of turning into 8 lesser worlds. He's borrowing the power of the heavenly tribulation to split open the skies. An ancient saint exclaimed. This was too risky. After all, that was the destructive power of the world. If one was not careful, they could ignite the fire and burn themselves. Is this guy crazy? He even dares to use the power of a saint's heavenly tribulation. The eyes of some ancient saints lit up. This was the first time even these super ancient beings had seen someone using such a method to split open an inner world. The 8 trigrams were like a bridge connecting heaven and earth, continuously drawing in the power of the heavenly tribulation. Even though the power of the heavenly tribulation was stronger and more terrifying, it seemed to be unable to harm Li Lingfeng at all. The power of the heavenly tribulation had been drawn away. He did not receive any impact at all. This method of transcending the heavenly tribulation tempted many people. They could more or less see some things by watching others transcend the heavenly tribulation. After all, this was experience. Drawing on the experiences of others would naturally increase the chances of success when transcending the heavenly tribulation. Of course, this was not absolute. One had to find the most suitable method for themselves. That was the most fundamental. Chapter 22:57. Li Lingfeng displayed his powerful cultivation. The 8 trigram runes seemed to be communicating with heaven and earth, drawing in endless power. 8 voids were being opened. This was a shocking scene. He actually opened his inner world at this time. An ancient saint was shocked to the extreme. With Li Lingfeng's cultivation, opening his inner world was a piece of cake, yet he chose to do so at this time. The endless power of the heavenly tribulation gathered towards the 8 voids. The voids were constantly being opened. It was not a real world, but a void before the world was formed. There was nothing there. Li Lingfeng's forehead gradually lit up. A ball of divine light flickered like a divine sun. It was fixed on his forehead and emitted a dazzling divine splendor. What is he doing? Many people were incomparably shocked. Some of them had already guessed what Li Lingfeng was going to do next. This was definitely something world-shocking. The tribulation clouds in the sky became even thicker, almost directly pressing down from the sky to the ground. A terrifying heavenly might spread out in all directions, causing everyone to hide far away. Even the ancient saints were the same. They felt danger. There was a faintly discernible divine sense locked onto them, causing them to feel apprehensive. Is it that person's protector? Some of the ancient saints mumbled. How could such a breathtaking character like that not have a Tao protector? A character like that would definitely be heavily nurtured by the various major powers. Of course, this person's protector must be strong enough. Otherwise, not only would the person undergoing the tribulation be threatened by the ancient saints, even the protector would be in big trouble. Buzz. Just when the ball of divine light between Li Lingfeng's brows was at its brightest, the space around him suddenly trembled. After that, a tiny figure the size of a finger walked out from between Li Lingfeng's brows. That is, seeing this scene, everyone's hearts trembled. That was Li Lingfeng's primordial spirit. Powerful primordial spirit fluctuations were emitted from the small figure. Then, the small figure sat cross-legged in front of Li Lingfeng's forehead. Behind the small figure was a divine sun, like a supreme god descending to the world. This is not the immortal Tao. It was then that Gu Fei realized that Li Lingfeng did not cultivate the immortal Tao, which was fundamentally different from the immortal Tao. It seemed to be the divine Tao, a legacy of the Kunlun homeworld. The divine Tao was incomparably mysterious. Since ancient times, there had been very few inheritances. Furthermore, the world thought that the inheritance of the divine Tao had long since been severed in the ancient times. Even if there were some divine path cultivation methods that had been passed down, they were also common goods and not some profound and unfathomable great techniques. In particular, the lineage of Kunlun's Fuxi had disappeared in the ancient times. The Fuxi that the living beings of Kunlun ancestral star worshipped as the ancestral god had also disappeared for countless years. Some people said that in the distant past, before the great calamity that engulfed the entire primordial world happened, Fuxi had already died in battle. Of course, this was only a rumor. No one had witnessed the fall of Fuxi. An ancestor god was in existence that could stand shoulder to shoulder with a supreme being. A battle of that level wasn't something that just anyone could witness. Even a sage couldn't withstand the supreme pressure of an extreme supreme being. The 8 trigrams technique of ancestor god Fuxi finally has a successor. The old man sitting cross-legged on top of a stone mountain muttered to himself. His eyes seemed to be faintly discernible with trigrams. Although the old man didn't emit any powerful aura, none of the ancient saints dared to underestimate him. It seems that Li Lingfeng has encountered a great opportunity. On a short hill not far from the old man's stone mountain, Gu Fei muttered to himself. Li Lingfeng was truly extraordinary. If he succeeded, he would become a powerful sacred god. However, not everyone was willing to see Li Lingfeng become a saint. Boom! Right at this moment, a black hand suddenly appeared. It tore through the tribulation clouds and slapped down towards Li Lingfeng, who was beneath the heavenly tribulation. An extremely powerful pressure of the saint rank swept out mightily from the hand. How dare you all! The old man sitting on top of the stone mountain suddenly stood up. Then, 2 beams of divine light shot out from his eyes and turned into 2 trigram runes that shot towards the black hand to suppress it. There were 2 trigram patterns, one black and one white. The black one represented the Kuan trigram, while the white one represented the Qian trigram. Once these 2 trigram patterns appeared, the power of the heavens and the earth was immediately drawn and madly gathered towards these 2 trigram patterns. Buzz! The void trembled. The 2 trigrams displayed extremely powerful energy waves, directly freezing the black hand in the void, making it difficult for it to continue slapping down. Rumble! The 2 trigrams intertwined. The power of the heavens and earth collided and intertwined, forming a yin-yang diagram. The black hand was caught in the middle of the yin-yang diagram and was destroyed by the power of the heavens and earth. At this moment, the old man's figure had already disappeared. Very soon, a miserable cry was heard in the distant sky. A figure broke through the void and fled into the chaos, causing a large amount of blood to sprinkle down from the sky. The old man quickly turned around. In his hand was a bloody severed arm. What a ferocious old man! Everyone could not help but feel incredibly shocked when they saw that. The severed arm the old man was holding gave off an extremely powerful aura of sainthood. It was a severed arm of a saint. It was obvious that the old man had just torn off the arm of the saint who had tried to kill Li Lingfeng. If that saint had not fled in time, the old man would have probably done more than just rip off an arm. The old man returned to the top of the mountain and tossed the severed arm onto the ground. He then sat cross-legged on a boulder, as if he had done something very normal. His face was still calm. Seeing how powerful the old man was, a few of the ancient saints who had been tempted to make a move dared not act recklessly. After all, the old man was extremely ferocious. The old man's battle prowess, which was able to severely injure a saint with ease, intimidated the ancient saints. Roar! Li Lingfeng suddenly roared when the old man severely injured the saint who had tried to kill Li Lingfeng. His expression became extremely vicious. The soul in front of Li Lingfeng's forehead suddenly blurred. What's going on? Gu Fei could not help but feel shocked when he saw this through the heavenly eye of martial path. This was a sign that the soul was about to crumble. Li Lingfeng was in danger. The importance of the soul went without saying. Be it on the divine path or the immortal path, the soul was the foundation of achieving the path. If the foundation was destroyed, it would be difficult for someone, no matter how outstanding they were, to become a saint. Chapter 2258. Arg, on top of the stone mountain, Li Lingfeng roared. The divine light between his brows flickered, as if it would dissipate at any moment. The primordial spirit that sat before Li Lingfeng's brows also became transparent, as if it was about to disappear completely. Oh no! In the distance, the old man was also extremely nervous when he saw this. Li Lingfeng, you have to hold on. You're not allowed to die. Gu Fei clenched his fists. His palms were covered in sweat. If Li Lingfeng were to die under the heavenly tribulation, then he might never know what had happened back then. This person is still not good enough after all. Although it's amazing, this is the heavenly tribulation of a saint. Even if you're a peerless genius, you'll still die under it. At this moment, no one was optimistic about Li Lingfeng anymore. They believed that he would not be able to hold on any longer and would be destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. The vitality in Li Lingfeng's body was quickly dissipating. He seemed to be really going to die. The 8 trigram patterns also became dim. The power of the heavenly tribulation could even break through the seal of the 8 trigram patterns and threaten Li Lingfeng's real body. The 8 voids created by the 8 trigram patterns shook violently as if they would collapse at any moment. The power of the heavenly tribulation isn't that easy to make use of. Someone sighed. The vitality in Li Lingfeng's body was flowing away. Very soon, his eyes became dim. His vitality was about to end, and his primordial spirit was about to completely collapse. Even the 8 trigram patterns were about to disappear. The 8 voids that had just been created were about to collapse. The aura of death even appeared on Li Lingfeng's body. However, just as everyone thought that Li Lingfeng was about to die, the vitality in his body that was about to end gradually recovered. This was like a cycle of life and death. When death was about to come, vitality was reignited. This method of putting oneself on the brink of death and coming back to life was too dangerous. If Li Lingfeng could not reignite his vitality at the critical moment, then he was dead for sure. The vitality in Li Lingfeng's body was rapidly recovering. His qi and blood became even more vigorous, and his vitality was extremely powerful. The 8 trigram patterns once again shone with dazzling divine light. Rumble. The 8 voids were shaking and the voids were being split open. Those were the 8 lesser void skies. The 8 void skies were getting bigger and bigger. It was as if 8 lesser worlds had appeared in the world. Li Lingfeng had experienced life and death once. Although the time was very short, he had comprehended many things, causing his comprehension towards the great Tao to deepen by a level. Buzz. The primordial spirit that was sitting cross-legged between Li Lingfeng's eyebrows abruptly shone with divine light. Then, an extremely tiny figure appeared within the divine light. That is, everyone was shocked to see this scene. Soul-splitting technique, an ancient sage muttered. Many people could already tell that the man was splitting his primordial spirit. 8 clones appeared around Li Lingfeng's primordial spirit, sitting cross-legged around it. At that moment, the power of the heavenly tribulation was wreaking havoc, giving Li Lingfeng a great sense of danger. One human-shaped lightning bolt after another began appearing. These were the imprints of the great Tao left behind by those who had once become saints. The human-shaped lightning bolt was incomparably powerful. It was as if those peerless geniuses that had disappeared had reappeared before everyone's eyes. The 8 trigram runes interweaved around Li Lingfeng, sealing off a part of the void. They blocked all the power of the heavenly tribulation outside the divine light and protected Li Lingfeng. Void Sky Seed Divinity. Li Lingfeng's eyes suddenly became extremely sharp. The 8 clones sitting around his primordial spirit immediately rushed out and entered the 8 lesser void skies. Buzz. The moment the 8 clones from Li Lingfeng's primordial spirit entered the 8 void skies created by the 8 trigram runes, the 8 lesser void skies immediately began to devour all the power in the surroundings. Void Sky Seed Divinity. An ancient sage exclaimed, "What? It's actually a supreme divine technique of the divine Tao." At this moment, the originally lifeless 8 lesser void skies underwent a very subtle change after Li Lingfeng's clones entered. This, Gu Fei could not help but feel shocked when he sensed all this. He could tell that this secret technique was very extraordinary. Li Lingfeng wanted to use the 8 lesser void skies to nourish his clones. This was equivalent to having 8 lives. As long as his clones were not destroyed, he could continue living forever. The 8 lesser void skies seemed to have turned into 8 bottomless black holes, endlessly devouring the surrounding spiritual qi. The power of the heavenly tribulation was also guided over. Even the human-shaped lightning could be absorbed into the lesser void skies. Then, Li Lingfeng's clones would mobilize all the power to completely obliterate them. There was no longer any suspense after that. Li Lingfeng controlled the 8 lesser void skies and faced the heavenly tribulation head-on. He continued to borrow the power of the heavenly tribulation to temper himself. The power of the great Tao produced by the 8 trigram runes continuously cleansed his divine body, gradually strengthening it and allowing it to contain even more divine power. However, this was a saint's heavenly tribulation after all. The imprints left behind by past saints were extremely powerful. The imprints turned into human-shaped lightning bolts that continuously attacked Li Lingfeng. The 8 trigram runes vibrated and unleashed 8 shocking powers, blocking the human-shaped lightning bolts that were charging at him. However, some of the imprints were extremely powerful. They took human forms and displayed great magic, directly attacking the void sealed by the 8 trigram runes and attacking Li Lingfeng. Die! Li Lingfeng roared and fought against the imprints that had barged in. This was definitely a battle of life and death. It should be noted that those who could become saints were all very impressive. The imprints that they left behind were still able to display great combat power. Boom! When the battle reached its most intense point, a loud rumble was heard. Lightning suddenly appeared, directly blasting Li Lingfeng's physical body to pieces. However, Li Lingfeng reassembled his physical body in just a few breaths' time and reappeared. His powerful recovery ability made him fearless of the person who had secretly attacked him. The saint's heavenly tribulation lasted for 24 hours. Li Lingfeng made it through. He did not die under the heavenly tribulation, but he was severely injured. If it had not been for the Void Sky Seed Divine Art, a legendary life-saving art, Li Lingfeng would have been obliterated by the heavenly tribulation long ago. The Void Sky Seed Divine Art was very extraordinary. Its power was similar to the Ascension Secret Art, one of the 9 secrets of a mortal path. Even if one's primordial spirit was scattered, they could still reassemble it and reconstruct their physical body. The heavenly tribulation dissipated, and the unparalleled pressure that had intimidated all things in the world disappeared as well. Although Li Lingfeng had narrowly escaped death, he had survived. Haha,